Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is. Hey, so welcome back. Well, I guess you were going to make me bigger, weren't you? We're gonna have a pretty hot show today. We have the gayest dude on the internet, Kyle Seraphin, with me. He can hear me from in the back room, but we're going to talk about the pipe bomber of Washington D.C. And he's going to have a lot to say about this Brian Cole character that they've decided was the new pipe bomber. And he's got some things going to break. I find it interesting that right after Steve Baker breaks the identity of the pipe bomber, the FBI decides, oh, no, we actually know who the pipe bomber is. It's an autistic black man that lives in Woodbridge, Virginia, that lives in his parents' basement. That's the guy who drives for, I think, Uber or DoorDash. I think it's DoorDash. Yeah, and if you look at all the pictures and you look at all the videos that they have, it's a white woman or a white man, I guess. But in this case, they found out who it was. But the FBI had to cover it up because this person works for the CIA. So who runs the country? Is it President Trump? We don't seem to be able to be getting anything done. So Kyle's not going to pull any punches. And it sounds like a false flag, and it probably is a false flag. We're going to get his thought on that. And we're going to talk a little bit about Tina Peters. Tina Peters, a 70-year-old Gold Star mom, election whistleblower. She's back in solitary confinement. Now, they want to tell us that it's not solitary confinement because they renamed it. But in essence, it's solitary confinement. I'm not going to give you an introduction on Kyle. He can introduce himself. If you don't know who Kyle is, then this is your first time to the show. I would say just Google him. He's got a bunch of cool stuff. Or just go see Julie Kelly. She's got a great X account. She can probably share all the things that she knows about Kyle. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and bring Kyle on. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Yo, we got to stop meeting like this.
What's up, brother?
I feel like you lost a mustache since I talked to you last. What's going on? Do you have a shaving mishap?
I did. And then I kept it. I was like, I kind of like it. I'm going to get rid of it. Maybe I'd get rid of the rest of it. But then I was like, I got to keep the beard. But I did. I had a little bit of a mishap.
This happens. The last time Alex Jones did that, he ended up with a Hitler stash for like a day. You remember that?
He kept it.
Yeah, he did. I love it. He actually looks more Hitler-esque than a lot of people do with a Hitler mustache. Some people can't pull off Hitler mustache, but I think you might be able to pull it off too. You guys have the same similar face shape.
I might try it.
Okay.
Just to try it. Yeah.
Well, all right. Let me give the audience warning. I'm coming in full speed right now. I started my podcast at 8:30 in Texas time, and I did it for 90 minutes, and then I got off for a few minutes, and I jumped onto a YouTube program, and we taped for 90 straight minutes, almost 2 hours actually. And then I took a breath, and I ate some nachos that my wife made me, and then I did Alex Jones stove for an hour, and then I jumped on my bike and kept my heart rate up for like 180, and I did that for 30 minutes, jumped out of the shower, put on the shirt, and I'm sitting here, no pants, no socks, just riled up, ready to go.
And I just want you guys to know that if he tells you he's not wearing any pants, that's all you want to know. You don't want to ask any more questions. Just
Ranger panties. I'm just like ready for rage and fitness, or let's just destroy some government narratives. So like I'm amped up right now.
Bro, I was listening to you on a X, what is it, the X...
Spaces.
Was
that last night?
You were, no, a couple nights ago. I was texting you while you were actually on it. I was like, oh
yeah, I was I'm so sarcastic right now. I cannot take this stuff seriously. I really can't. Like, for all the immune. So this is kind of funny because my attorneys right now are shaping this defensive motion to dismiss and try to get rid of the lawsuit that Kash Patel's girlfriend has against me. And their argument is that like Kyle Seraphin's style is tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic, sardonic wit, whatever it is. And then it's like, I was like, is that even really a good way to characterize me? And then I went back and read the name of the episode that they claimed was defamatory. And the name of the episode, Joe, is Desperate FBI director digs deep into John Bolton's mustache. Like, this is just who I am. I don't know how to take serious topics seriously. Like, I do work seriously, but like, I can't take these people seriously or what we're doing here. We're just a clown show. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, but you're also the facts that you bring are very serious. It's not.
Yeah, I just don't want to. I don't want to like sit there and be boring. Alex Jones had a whole bit on it today. Actually, I was listening to him, and there's this guy who was like, "Alex Jones is super entertaining. That's why he could be from the CIA." And I was like, I'm super entertaining sometimes. I say funny stuff in funny ways. It's only because I get bored of listening to facts that are boring. How about we spice it up and we talk about it like regular people instead of being like we're doing a, you remember the lecture that Indiana Jones did when he's out talking about, like, Indiana Jones was like two people, right? Yeah, there were people falling asleep. There was the girl that had the like "I love you" or whatever on the eyelids.
Oh yeah.
And he's out there and he was doing the really dry, dusty 1920s professorial nonsense, 1930s professorial stuff. Like, I don't want to be delivered. I don't want to give boring, lonely lectures with like a dusty feel to it. I want to tell people stuff in a way that normal people talk. So sometimes it's irreverent, but this story is atrocious, man. And I don't agree with the politics of the people that are the parents necessarily. And I also think that what they are doing is, or what they've been doing is really special because they've got an autistic special needs type son who's a grown man. That's the guy who was arrested. And we kind of said, it's a autistic black guy who lives in mom and dad's basement. In our lifetimes. Yeah, in our lifetimes, that's the way that people took care of their offspring when they couldn't necessarily survive in the world in a meaningful way. They couldn't go out and make it on their own. And so we gave them purpose. Like, as a society, we allowed them to stay in homes. We put them out into the workforce. And maybe you were the guy that restocked like all the bolts in the family's hardware store, or maybe you were the dishwasher in the family restaurant, or you did something that added value to your life and to the people around you's life, and you were able to be a productive human being. And we didn't just say like, oh, if you're not some cerebral, if you're not a programmer and if you're not going to be a media influencer, then you're nobody. Living in mom and dad's basement, if you can't live on your own, is a perfectly good thing, because the alternative might be living on the street. And Washington, D.C. is full of people that do that. So it's just kind of interesting. This story hits me on multiple levels. And one of them is that we're talking about a guy that the FBI loves to target. And we saw some of these things happen previously. They did it in the Gretchen Whitmer case. I've seen it done in what I call the playbook. Trevor Aronson writes about it in The Terror Factory. This is a 25-year, but probably much longer than that. Find people who are isolated, potentially loners, people who have developmental disabilities, mental illness, whatever it may be, and go get statistical accomplishments and justify your work, because it's way easier to set somebody up and create a problem than it is to actually go out and find the real bad guys out there. And the rule at the FBI Academy, they teach you day one, we only catch the dumb ones. Well, a lot of it's because they're setting up the dumb ones too. So this one bothers me, and I feel like we're catching the Richard Jewell case.
This is exactly like the Richard Jewell case, but the grandma is actually saying that her grandson was framed, and
I think we're gonna prove that he didn't do what they said. Look, at the end of the day, the stuff that is on my computer today, right now, would be enough to convince a DC jury that he cannot be, beyond a reasonable doubt. You can't get that burden. The FBI doesn't have it, guaranteed it. So that's a big claim for me to make, and it's not my story to show. But even just the stuff that's available currently from the teams that's been working with the Blaze, the guy Armitage, who's been out there plotting the cell phone pings and where they were, and is showing that the complaint the FBI used to arrest this guy is so thin, and I think it's so weak. And I'm going to actually make the argument that they did it backwards, and I think that's really troubling, because the Bureau is a procedural animal, if nothing else, and it is a competent investigative agency, period, like full stop. So to tell me that they didn't have this guy on the radar, and they said they didn't get anything new, the claim is that they used credit card receipts and then cell phone pings and a license plate reader, and they said it in that order as though those are the strongest parts of the case first. And the things that they saw that he bought were like things that are in my garage, and they're probably in your garage, Joe, like 1-inch galvanized pipe and some end caps and some 14 gauge wire and some wire strippers and a file. The most embarrassing part of the complaint would be that if you're a regular dude and you realize that you're trying to build a bomb, and a month before you go drop it off, you don't have any wire strippers, but you've been buying wire for years. I don't even know how someone reads that complaint and takes it seriously unless they're just an indoor beta male. And then you add the fact that the cell phone pings don't look very conclusive to me, and I'm happy to talk why I think they're not. And then I think there's going to be some exculpatory information that is going to be turned out. And my bet is that the FBI actually already cleared this guy in 2021. I bet you there's actually an FBI case file that says they did. If I had to guess, the FBI found this guy among the 186 phone numbers that they said in the Barry Loudermilk committee report that came out in January of 2025. And the odds are they ran down the thing. He could have been in the first group of 30-something that needed interviews, or he could have been in the group that was 90 that needed follow-up. But I'm guessing that they already ruled him out because the fact pattern doesn't fit. And I've already seen enough in other places that would convince a DC jury that there's at least reasonable doubt.
Well, let's talk about what we do know. We do know that you individually were put on to watch a house that was right next door to Kerkhoff's residence, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So the person that we were assigned to watch was a person called Person of Interest 2, whose name I've known for obviously 5 years, but not relevant to the story as it stands, and no need to identify people that are not publicly already known. There's some social media buzz. They got it right. He's a very tall, big, black man who works for the government in a civilian capacity, and he used to be in the Air Force, and all the stuff that I had said going back multiple years now is what the FBI had on him at the time. Whether that continues to be true, I know he's a civilian employee for the federal government. I know that the FBI reported that he was a member of the Air Force and retired as an E9. And so, yeah, we were looking at this person, but we were looking at that person of interest 3, which people can go read the Loudermilk report. If you type in January 6th update, January 2025, you'll get this report that was released by Tom Massey and Barry Loudermilk and the people that worked on their staff. And it's essentially like a state of the case, kind of an update at the 4-year mark for the J6 case. And what they mention in there is that there are basically 3 people of interest, so we can organize people's brains. Person of interest 1, that's your pipe bomber in the hood, whoever that is. The Blaze made the original argument that it was this woman named Shauni Kerkhoff. I think that she's a plausible, if not highly probable suspect. So the FBI says no. They've arrested Brian Cole. They claim that that's who person of interest 1 is. And then there's 2 other people. One is person of interest 2, and the other is person of interest 3. I was watching the residence of person of interest 3 because of the activity of person of interest 2, who was a childhood friend and then a recent social media reacquaintance after decades of being out of touch. And this guy showed up on the radar on January 5th and then did some really suspicious stuff, which we can talk about, and used the Metro card. And
this is the person of interest 2. That is the person that lived next door to purchase.
3 live next door to Shauni Kerkhoff.
Yes.
And 2 went and stayed with person of interest 3 from out of town. So person of interest 2 is really kind of maybe the more mysterious of all the people. I know his name. I know things about him. I know some very specific things about him. He traveled from out of town and then went to the rally, or went to walk around in the Capitol on January 5th. And when he did, he took the train using POI 3's Metro card and used POI 3's Uber account to do some errands in the area. And he stayed at POI 3's house. So essentially, if he was using cash, then there's going to be no record of him even being in the area. Because, if you go to a hotel, you put down a credit card, you put down your license and so on. He didn't have to do any of that. He stayed with a friend from out of town who, as far as we can tell, he didn't actually have a personal in-person relationship with for literally decades. And then he kind of popped up out of nowhere. And also of interest, he's described as an itinerant Christian preacher who would do as many as 80 trips out of the United States per year with a Christian missionary group. And without mentioning the group by name, people can type in the name of the group and CIA in quotes, and you will get CIA FOIA archives of the CIA having worked with this Christian missionary group, which is very interesting to me. And then lastly, this guy was apparently a stud athlete in college. And then after college, he dripped off the map, disappeared for 17 plus years with no known employment or anything else. And then when he popped up, he's working for this missionary group. And it's a self-funded, non-paid missionary scenario where he had to go out and do fundraising to be able to do what he does overseas. and apparently he lives okay. So what he did for the 17 years, unknown. Why he's able to fund 80 plus trips overseas on fundraising to go bring the message of Jesus to places all over the world, Africa, Asia, etc., unknown. And how he decided to reach out and be on there on January 5th rather, and take pictures of the dumpster where the pipe bomb was found after changing costume when he got out of the metro station. Are you aware of this part? Let me walk it out. The guy takes the metro to the Capital South metro station on January the 5th. He steps outside the train. He takes off the red hat that he wore into the city and puts on an Elmer Fudd ear flaps hat with a brim, puts on sunglasses and a COVID mask, and then goes directly to the dumpster where the bomb was found the next day and takes pictures of it because he was ostensibly taking pictures for a book that was about numbers in DC, numerals.
Okay.
And then he wanders around.
Let's back this up for a minute. Number 3. So I want number 2's name because I need to be able to run it because of the part of working in Christian. We'll talk afterwards. Number 3 lived next door to Shauni Kerkhoff.
Yeah.
Shauni Kerkhoff is the one that they ran the gait analysis on that had a 95 to 98% probability. I've seen Brian Cole's pictures, and he literally has a disproportionate body, right? You would recognize almost immediately that his legs were just not long.
So the one of the neighbors said that to the New York Post, was commented on saying he had unusually short legs, like really short was the actual quote, which is kind of funny. It sounds like something I might say. I've also spoken to one of the neighbors who lives about 6 doors down, who just by happenstance is a really good friend of mine. And this friend said that, my wife watches this guy walk his dog every single day. We've lived here for just over 9 years. So thousands of times she's seen this guy walking, and has also seen the video of the pipe bomber and said it's not him. So that's an N=1 non-definitive, Kyle Seraphin's friend, you're trust me, bro kind of thing. But what I'm telling you is I almost moved to the house that was less than 100 yards away from this guy's backyard, because that neighborhood is actually a pretty nice place to live. I found a house, and people can look it up, in Woodbridge, Virginia. It's on 3 dormers court, and it's the only house that's backwards. It's like the front of the house is actually facing the backyard, which is kind of beautiful, and the back of the house faces the street, which is kind of weird. And I almost bought it, and it was a little bit weird, and we just didn't buy it. But if you were to walk from that house to Brian Cole's house, it's like less than 100 yards away. And so I know the neighborhood, and I know people in the neighborhood. And I almost moved to that neighborhood. It's a very nice place. And I'll tell you one thing that's not going on in that neighborhood. Nobody is test firing off their pipe bombs, because you'd have to assume that the FBI knew that there might be other bombs. They were digging in the backyard. I don't know what that was all about. It's also really interesting that there's an accessible, drivable road that's not on the maps that's just behind that neighborhood. So all that I found very interesting. And as far as I can tell, the FBI wasn't investigating in that neighborhood until after the Baker story and after whistleblowers went forward and some other things that happened that kind of lit a fire into the FBI's ass. So I agree with you that the proportions are there, but I've actually had some people that live nearby and have seen him walk literally hundreds, if not thousands of times, and said it's not him, because he has a very distinct figure. As you said, he's about 60% torso and 40% legs, for people who are wondering, like, what does that mean? He's just got very low legs and a longer body type. And so it's distinctive when you see him.
I saw a video of him, and there's no way that he was you would know right away inside of the video that it was disproportionate. You'd be able to check his gait and how he walks with the pipe bomber. It's impossible. They're not even remotely the same person. You couldn't even come to that conclusion.
And that's what the neighbor said too. That's what the neighbor said. So here's the other problem, is that they did a criminal complaint to arrest this guy. And I want people to understand this too. I have the FBI usually arrests people via grand jury indictment. That's the process. There's 2 ways that you can be arrested or get an arrest warrant. One is by information, and the other is by indictment. And in this case, the information is called a criminal complaint. For people to understand the way the Bureau historically does business is they do long-term investigations where they have lots of information, they take it in front of a grand jury, and a jury of impaneled citizens get to evaluate whether or not you have the probable cause required to believe that a crime took place and that the person you think did in fact do the crime. And then the alternative way you do it is you just write up a complaint with an affidavit that you swear out and you give it to a judge. Local law enforcement leans on criminal complaints regularly. If they do an arrest based on PC, then they write up what the complaint is, and then the person goes in and they deal with it. But that's not the way the FBI does business. With the exception of January 6th, you would be able to find prior to January 6th that most FBI agents who did not work on an Indian reservation probably wrote single digits, maybe 1 or 2 criminal complaints for their entire career in 20 years. I know guys that did 20 years and didn't write a single criminal complaint. I wrote 1 in 6 years. So it's not a common way that the FBI does business, but that's what they wrote up to be able to arrest Brian. And so it's interesting to me that they didn't put this in front of a grand jury. They did act like it was some sort of an exigent circumstance, and this guaranteed them an arrest warrant, which means the spectacle that you saw, that was helicopters and, you know, the whole squad coming in and locking down the cul-de-sac and all the other kind of BS that went along. And I don't like the way they did that. I think it was dangerous. I think that there's probably a whistleblower complaint coming in indicating the danger that actually did for the public, because if they actually thought this was an active bomb case, wouldn't they want to evacuate the neighbors next door? Wouldn't they want to get those people out of there in case they actually set off a bomb in the house that they were searching, which is what the expectation would be? Anyway, there's a lot of problems with the way the FBI went about this procedurally, let alone the actual fact pattern, which I think is thin and weak.
Well, let's just talk about what they did to Steve Baker after this, because then they had influencers and people that were out there that went straight to discredit Steve Baker as a person, right? Not just even related to the J6 pipe bomber. They went to basically eviscerate Steve Baker.
Well, let's do that for a second. Let's consider who covered the story and who's covering this story. So Baker releases something.
Of the world, the little queer guy that, yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So what's interesting is the people that picked up the story and ran it were me, The Blaze, InfoWars, people who have evaluated what's there, you. We're talking about the story because we go, okay, the source is credible, their reputation is good, and their investigative and journalistic ethics are solid.
Right.
And I don't care what it means to the government. I don't care what it means to the administration. None of that's relevant. What's relevant is it true? Is it not true? As you guys have as your sort of network tagline. Okay, fine. And then who didn't cover it? CNN, CBS, ABC, NBC, MSNBC. No touching it whatsoever. Okay? Then they go and they announce Brian Cole. And it's broke by Ken Delanian at MSNBC. It's picked up by Seth MacFarlane at CBS, where they were fighting over who broke it first. Apparently Ken did, because he let me know when I shared Seth MacFarlane's thing and I was like, this is BS. He was like, hey, I broke that story. And I'm like, oh, did you? Well, like, fine. That doesn't say anything good. And everybody jumps on this story, and Fox News is now referring to him as not the alleged pipe bomber, but the pipe bomber. That's what they're saying. They are definitive. And then you listen to what happens when Dan Bongino goes out there and rolls this out to Sean Hannity. And the direct words that he said was, we're pretty comfortable we've got our guy, and we think the public will be pretty comfortable too. Between us, that's how you know that there needs to be some wiggle room for the bullshit that you're not sure is going to stick. And his lack of confidence in that after all the years of talking about this being an inside job, there's no way it could be Brian Cole Jr., because what's Brian Cole Jr. access to the government? What's his access to the United States Capitol Police? What is his access to the potential cover-up or levers of power? How on earth can you have made all the claims that you did if you're Dan Bongino, and every reasonable person that's on the right that sat there and listened to it and went, okay, got it. The United States Capitol Police went looking for a second pipe bomb after the first one was found, and their units were already in motion before a second one was even dispatched. They were moving before the call to go find more pipe bombs went out, and they found that bomb, the number 2 bomb, in 11 minutes and 7 seconds from the time that they hit the parking lot. You could go into my house right now, in a house that is full of guns, and I would say find 3 firearms, and you wouldn't be able to do it in 11 minutes and 7 seconds, most likely, if you didn't know where to look already. Now, if you knew where to look because you've been in my house before, then you're like, oh, there it is, flamethrower there. Yeah, you know where to look. So the fact of the matter is the United States Capitol Police. Now you'd still find them. The United States Capitol Police went directly to the bomb, and then they stopped looking, like they knew there was going to be no more bombs. And when they briefed the people that were on scene, which they did, they said, hey, we just found a pipe bomb. The guys who were told we just found a pipe bomb, they finished eating their sandwiches. We knew law enforcement didn't act the way that they should have if there was an actual bomb threat. So you've got to tell me how Brian Cole fits into that story. And you can't. You can't make those things fit with what we know already.
So just so you know, my little brother lived in Woodbridge, Virginia for 25 years. 20 years.
That's what we call it.
Hoodbridge. It's called Hoodbridge. Yeah,
that's right.
And if you know anything about Woodbridge, you would call it Hoodbridge. By the way, if just a fun fact, Garfield High School, 1989, first time there was ever a shooting inside of a high school, a public high school, was at Garfield High School.
Okay.
And a guy named Damien, who I actually knew really well, was the one that was shot by a guy on the outside. So just so you know, I know a lot about that area. It's not that far from Washington, D.C. You do have small enclaves. I know where this guy's house is. Matter of fact, I've toyed with the idea of sending someone over there and doing an interview with the mom and the grandmother who believe that he is set up, and I might do that. I mean,
I started talking to her today for whatever it's worth between you and I and whoever's listening. I reached out to her on Facebook and I just told her who I am and what I know. And at the end of the day, like I said, this is probably someone who sits on the exact opposite of the political spectrum from me. And I saw the grandmother.
That doesn't make a difference.
This is the point why I think why it does matter. Because if you care about what's right, then you care that you don't set up innocent people. And I can look at the woman's Facebook page and I watched a bunch of influencers say, well, he was an anti-Trump guy or he was a pro-Trump guy. It's like, it doesn't matter. This is bullshit. It doesn't matter that his grandmother's only picture on the Reels section is her standing and talking to the only transgender representative for the state house of delegates in Virginia, and obviously leans to the left. What does that matter to the fact that the FBI has a job to do, which has nothing to do with politics? And if you put in two people in there that are looking for a political win, and they want to call him an anarchist or that he was going to be mad about this or that, and somehow he's also like, here's what we have to believe based on reading the complaint. Not only is he a prophet or a prognosticator or a fortune teller who knew that the election would be lost in 2020 because he started building parts of his bomb in 2019. That's pretty bold. We also have to believe that he's maybe like has the power of telekinesis because he set a 1 hour timer for something that was supposed to go off 17 hours later, if you believe the narrative that has been told forever. And if the bombs were not capable of going off, which I think is what I was briefed on, and everybody who's rational and reasonable looks at it and says, then they can't have charged this the way they did. They charged it that they have to be viable /live / designed to function as designed or should have functioned as designed kind of devices. And you'll notice in the press conference they did over and over again, they kept talking about how these were live bombs. The government charged it in such a way that is so obviously not compatible with the facts at hand. And so regardless of what I would think about the way that anything else goes on, I can look and say a mom is taking care of a son and he lives in her basement and she's doing the best she can with the guy. That's a tough hand to be dealt for the mom and for the guy. And if the FBI is going to go after them, then they can basically count on me. Kyle Seraphin is going to stand up and say, I will do whatever investigative capabilities I have. And by the way, they're not none. And we know some things. And it turns out I've been invested in this case since January 13th, 2021, when my team was initially assigned to the pipe bomber case. And I've been interested in finding who the person was that actually did this since that day.
Yeah, but I mean, Kyle, we have to come back to person of interest 3, person of interest 2,
yep,
and Shauni Kerkhoff, right? And there's number one, here's some facts that we haven't even discussed right now that are out there. Shauni Kerkhoff worked for the Capitol Police Department, correct? She was there on January 6th. She was the one that fired rounds into the crowd.
On top of that, she also was moonlighting in that job with another part of her own department. She was also working for the intelligence unit under Yogananda Pittman. So yes,
we already know about Yogananda Pittman because she was the one that literally caused or stood in the way of progress related to having.
She stopped the House and the Senate chambers from being evacuated, which is something Chief Sund has mentioned. It was an issue. Like they made a call. Tarek Johnson went forward and moved people out. But on top of that, what is even wilder with this story, 2 additional pieces of it. I mentioned that the police officers who found the bomb quit looking. After they quit looking, they got an award for finding the bomb. And the guy who found the actual bomb, who was seen on camera looking under the same bush that the pipe bomber had sat at the night before for 77 seconds. And then he went directly to the bomb and found it in under 12 minutes, 11 minutes and 7 seconds. That guy got promoted. And his job now is he's the Capitol Police liaison to the FBI. So he still works for the same agency, but his job is now to interface with the FBI. And on top of that, The guy who was the on-scene commander for the ATF, the bomb squad guy, his name was Sean Benedict. He was out there helping the bomb, response, and he promoted into Yogananda Pittman's job. He went from ATF over to U.S. Capitol Police, which is a completely illogical move. And when Steve Baker put his piece out saying that they did this thing and they found the bomb in record time and then quit looking, he retired the next day with no warning. Which means you're no longer touchable by an internal investigation for whatever people are. If you're not aware of how it works when you're in law enforcement, there are special powers that are assigned to your investigative internal affairs units, and they go away when you're not an employee. Which is why people resign from their jobs and then they have to go and they get a criminal warrant if they want to come after you. They can do it administratively if you still work there. Just so people understand why that's relevant.
So I'm sorry. I'm going to bring you back to the person of interest 3, person of interest 2. Knowing what I know about the CIA and the time that I spent over in the Middle East and Africa, and knowing what I've seen, what they've done in other countries, chaos always favors the op, never favors the people. And you want to create, all the things that they're doing. And I'm just going to say, you have person of interest 3, big black dude, not your pipe bomber, work for the government. Persons of interest 2 comes and stays with them. I haven't talked in nearly a couple decades. Come and stay with them, happens to be right next door to person of interest, or excuse me, the pipe bomber that was identified through gait analysis and other, I would say, very strong forensic facts related to what Steve Baker did. Because one of the things you have to know about Steve Baker is he has no interest in shedding light on an innocent person. Like, he would just never do it.
Not only that, but we're talking about the Blaze is a multi-$100-million company. And they ran it through all their legal chains, and they ran it through all of the safety nets that they could do that can still do responsible journalism. But, you've got to run an edge where you're actually going to take a risk. And the risk is we're going to identify someone that law enforcement hasn't. And they did. And they went out there. And what's also not publicly known, and I can't get the Blaze to talk about it, and it bothers me very heavily. And maybe you and I will talk offline, but it's not for public consumption because it's not my story. But there is more that went on behind the scenes where elements in our government actually tried to apply pressure in the media to affect the outcome that they wanted. And that's very problematic too. So when you add the entirety of the recipe together, Steve wasn't going for clicks. I don't think it had anything to do with clicks. I think it had to do with the fact that they accidentally aligned on a very plausible subject who fit the bill for everything that even a guy like Dan Bongino running a podcast would have said, like, this is a truly interesting story.
Shauni Kerkhoff.
And it's very plausible. Correct.
Shauni Kerkhoff, where does she work now?
She works at the CIA. And apparently she applied to the CIA job before January the 6th. And then she was taken over there 6 months after January the 6th, June, July, something like that, summer of 2021.
So there.
And not only did she go over there, she went over there for like a pretty lateral transition, or maybe even a demotion in some ways. And I had somebody in the Bureau tell me this that worked counterintelligence. They said, we don't promote people into the CIA from other government jobs. We move them there to hide them. Because the CIA has all the abilities to do social media scrubs, which, by the way, are not perfect, but they could do a cursory scrub of the internet and knock a lot of stuff off. She has no social media. She has no Twitter account, which did exist, but there are always echoes of this thing. People who are responding to what she had posted. There are echoes of things that were on Instagram where she was tagged, but she's no longer there. So you can find that she was tagged. She had, pictures and a life, and she was a professional soccer player. So she shows up in the on the roster and videos of things that her professional soccer team did. She played for the team in Columbus, Ohio, and she was a Temple soccer star, Division I soccer athlete. So she was a physical stud. And another thing that we can tell about the person that walks around on that night, that person is an athlete, as far as I can tell.
And had a previous injury. You could tell.
Clearly did. Right. And she had a I think she had a femoral injury in 2015 that was corrected surgically. This guy apparently has a much more pronounced kind of like really staggering gait. I'm heard shuffled and staggering around, and he doesn't have like an.
Yeah, it's like almost like a dragging.
Mm-hmm. And that is not the same.
Like I've seen.
That is not what we. That's not what we saw on the on January the 5th.
So a couple things that you said. One, erase your footprint. They can erase it. They can also add it. By the way, they can create something out of thin air. And in large part, we don't even know if that's what they did to Brian Cole, because if we're going to go back and just look at the person that shot at President Trump, that they want us to believe snuck up into a building, got inside. I'm going to call it inside the wire. It's not really called inside the wire, but inside the perimeter area of.
Well, he got within rifle range. Call it whatever you want. Like inside of 200 yards, it's ridiculous.
I mean, inside of 200 yards, carrying a gun on a roof, past not just Secret Service, but other police departments and other agencies. So this was interagency cooperation. I mean, it's not a lapse of judgment. It was done on purpose, right? And so nobody would come to the conclusion otherwise that. And this is why, by the way, I have problems with Pam Bondi. I have problems with Todd Blanche. I have problems with the DOJ, is because I can clearly see that they've made strategic decisions to have people represent, say, Comey or Letitia James, that they knew could have resulted in those charges being thrown out, right? And they make it look like, oh, it was just a mistake, right? Oh, we just made a mistake. They're not making mistakes. These are smart people. I cannot be the smartest person in the room. You're not the smartest guy in the room. Steve Baker's not the smartest one in the room. We're not the smartest one in the room. We're the most diligent towards truth. And that's why all of this information, you have to look at it. You have to look at the fact that anyone in their right mind would look at Brian Cole, look at the pipe bomber. You would have him just take a couple steps. You would look at the pipe bomber and you would go, not the same person, throw it out. Next.
I'm telling you right now, from the stuff that I've seen, I think a DC jury will throw it out really easily. Forget the video analysis. Like there's circumstantial stuff that is going to be impossible for them to line up. I don't think they can make it happen unless the FBI claims, which they didn't. And by the way, they would have, because wouldn't you? Unless they can show that he parked in a very specific place. He got out of the vehicle that we know is his, which is a blue 2017 Nissan Sentra with factory wheels. He got out of it wearing the outfit that we saw the pipe bomber move around with, even masked. And then the cell phone pings would follow it around. If you had that, but here's the thing that you and I both know about Washington, D.C. Can you park without using a credit card anywhere in D.C.?
No.
No, you cannot. No. So they should have that. That should be an easy one. They mentioned that he rarely went to Washington, D.C., but then you see what this person did, and they didn't refer to a map nonstop. They didn't refer to a cell phone nonstop on this camera. They went directly to the places they needed to go. Do we think that this guy just memorized where he was going and knew how to get around Washington, D.C., despite the fact that, as far as the FBI can tell, he was there very infrequently, like one time per year? And this was a person who knew the area and also popped in and out of cameras. One of the wild things about the person that dropped off those pipe bombs,
where the cameras were at all times, where to turn away, where not to turn away.
So this person on camera showed up at 7:34. I'm actually looking at a map on my desktop right here. Showed up at 7:34 for the first time.
You can share it.
Maybe I can. How do I do that?
At the very bottom it says share screen, and then we'll just make you full screen.
Give me a second. Share. There, I can share that. Would you like to open system settings? And it doesn't like it. It doesn't like it right now. It's not relevant.
It's fine.
Listen,
go ahead.
Yeah. Long and short. I should have planned that one out. The map is essentially between New Jersey, and you've got 2nd Street and 1st Street southeast. 3rd Street is the outer boundary, and it goes up to C Street on the north end for people who are following along. E Street on the southern end. This is the map of Washington, D.C., where this person comes up. Pops up out of nowhere at 7:34 on foot walking. No other camera footage has been released or is available through the Capitol Police footage. Walks in a sort of a meandering path, goes down to New Jersey, goes north on New Jersey, goes west on D Street, and then goes south on whatever. I think this is something else. Can't remember what it is. Anyway, ends up right there at the DNC and then disappears off camera right where they started. So 7:34 to 8 p.m., the person walks on camera and then disappears off into a blank zone for 8 minutes. There's speculation that maybe got a second bomb at that point in time, but seems likely to have been on foot based on the distance, and then suddenly pops up at the corner of 2nd Street Southeast and C Street at 8:08, 8 minutes later, and then goes directly to that location behind the dumpster, disappears from sight for a little bit, apparently drops the bomb, and then disappears from sight at 8:18. So no ingress and no egress vehicle.
Yeah, that's not even
That's
possible.
someone who knows where they're going. That's someone who makes a very directed move and sort of disappears off on the east side of that little complex there near Folger Park. And the question is, where did that person park? It's paid parking everywhere in DC, and there should be a vehicle. There should be footage of it. And if we believe that the FBI actually has the goods on this guy, again, they would have claimed we followed the pings. We scoured the area. We found video footage of this vehicle parking at this place. It aligns with this credit card where he paid for parking. And then we saw him and his cell phone pings in the area and then, moves around. And then we see him get back into the vehicle and then the cell phone, pings somewhere else on the highway. And then we see him, next down in Woodbridge. And you'd go, okay, fine. That's not what happened. And that's not what they have. What they have are garbage cell phone pings that don't even ping in the sector that they claim they're in.
But it's not even that. It's the information that you just talked about that I think we have to be talking about. This is the same problem that I have with the election systems and how we know that they're actually corrupted from the beginning all the way through, and they were designed that way. You just have to go back to the genesis of it. You have to go back to the genesis of when the systems were actually created and the signs, right? Same thing goes for Brian Cole. Brian Cole doesn't have the ability to come in and out of camera view. And if you know anything about Washington, D.C., which I know a lot about Washington, D.C., you can't go 50 feet without getting out of the range of a camera if you don't know where the cameras are, which means you'd have to be someone that was either being told what was happening, check this camera in corridor 3, take a right, take a left. I mean, could have been guided through there for all we know, right? Mm-hmm. Which again means we're dealing with the CIA. And the reason why I go back to the CIA is because this is an organization with a $120 billion budget every year. It's a very large budget. They said, oh, no, it's $100 billion. Wrong. You have dark money budgets that they're not even on book. They can get money anywhere they want, anytime that they want. And if they don't have money, all they have to do is start a private war. Someone will send money in because they've killed 100,000 people. And so the money, they'll just come in and just siphon it off. The CIA is the single biggest unit that you don't know about. Like, you don't know who they are. They can scrub the internet, they can scrub whatever they want. So you have this person that goes from the Capitol Police, that goes to work for the CIA, and what you consider a lateral move and or to hide them, depending on how you look at it. You have person of interest number 2, and person of interest number 3 that literally, their doors, as you said before on your podcast, you open the doors and they touch each other.
Yeah,
right?
They're about 8 feet apart. Yeah.
So you don't, this isn't just a coincidence. And then you look
just
at the
for
fact
people,
that Steve Baker.
Numerically, for it to be a coincidence, to pick 2 houses at random and they be right next door to each other would be 1 to 5.7 trillion in the DC area.
You have to triple that. You have to quadruple that. You have to then you have to use an integer that we can't even comprehend on the likelihood that any of all this would happen. It's not even possible.
Agreed.
It's not possible.
And here's the other thing of it. Like, what are the odds that I know somebody that lives 6 doors away from the guy that they picked? And I know a little bit more about that I can't talk about right now. But if somebody ends up putting whistleblower disclosures forward from the Bureau, then we may end up hearing even more about what was going on in the neighborhood at the time. And then on top of that, it's like, what are the odds that I know Steve Baker? What are the odds that I was sitting on the original surveillance team for 2 days?
Yes.
It's bizarre.
This is the same thing.
I mean, I don't think God puts us in a place where we don't belong. So I do feel good about that. And I do feel very strongly about pushing this forward. And it's not about debunking a government agency, which I'm happy to do. And I like it, it's like a sport for me in some ways. But this is a mission. This is a mission that has to be done, because what we're talking about, in my belief, is a likely setup. I think the Bureau probably actually has it in their files that they cleared this guy in 2021. The odds are infinitesimally low. Let me tell you how simple it is, Joe. The FBI publicly shared with the Loudermilk Committee, who said it in January of 2025. They identified 186 phone numbers that were pinging in the area. 186. Let's just take them at their face value. 186 data points. There are almost 1,000, if not more than 1,000 agents working out of the Washington field office. That's 1 day of interviews. You could do it in a week if you were taking your time and you were going lax. They can interview every single person there. And they can run down what else they were doing, an alibi or otherwise. This would take almost no serious lift for an agency that gets $11 billion a year. It's just not hard. That could be done. And to tell me that they didn't do it in 5 years, and they were evaded because the guy how did they find him? Cell phone pings, credit card receipts, and a license plate reader. Worst case scenario, brute force in that like needle in a haystack scenario. This is 3 weeks worth of work for the FBI as it stands. It's not that incompetent. They find people all the time in 7 days, in 10 days, from a dead stop, from a no credible intelligence beforehand to we have our guy and it's going to hold up. So I don't believe what they said, and I don't believe the people who said it. And by the way, neither do the people who said it. When you go listen to Podcast Dan versus Deputy Dan, those 2 guys and the way they're talking, one guy has enthusiasm and he has confidence, and the other guy doesn't believe anything he's saying. And he says, we're pretty sure we've got our guy, but this is the beginning chapter of 20-chapter book. Here's the deal, man. When the FBI arrests their guy, that's the end of the case. You got to turn over discovery starting right now. Yeah, you may have some leads you're going to follow up, and maybe there's some more investigative stuff that you're going to do. Maybe you're going to get something out of the search warrant. Maybe there's going to be some follow-on pieces to it. You didn't know for sure it was your guy when you executed the search warrant? I mean, maybe that's the legal standard, but that's not the way the Bureau does business. Certainly not after 5 years. Give me that. That's crazy. we're pretty confident we got our guy. Sure, you are.
Okay, so let's look at it. Let's look at all the facts, and let's talk about Steve Baker. Let's talk about, I said this to you when you actually first started talking about it. You go, Joe, I was on the surveillance team, and I was like, wait, what? You're like, yeah, and then we were pulled off. I said, why don't we just walk up to the guy and talk to him? You said that you went back and you met in a. Am I divulging something I shouldn't? By the way.
No, that's fine. I did.
Man.
I wanted to hear, and here's the
thing. I was like,
it's not common that the FBI would break surveillance to go and talk to somebody, but here's the reason why I said that. So, I've seen some agents that are online. I call them the FAGs, the former agent group, and and FedFags. So the thing about them is that they're like, well, SOG doesn't do interviews. It's like, no shit, man. I know that. You think that I don't know that? Of course I know that. Here's why I wanted to do it. There are two factors that are at play. National security agents tend to be a little bit gun shy about going out into public. They work behind a desk. They do things like by secret squirrel means. They're used to doing, non-public stuff, and they'd rather collect information. And they always err on the side of don't let anyone know that we're investigating them, because God forbid they know that. And my answer was always like, we're the FBI. If we got to go investigate someone because there's possibly someone dropping pipe bombs in the national capital region where my kids are, where people are driving their cars with their babies and doing carpools, or they're walking by with their strollers, or, people are walking to church at lunch. Are you kidding me? Like, let's bend a little bit of our normal protocol of like, we want to make sure that nobody knows we're there. And let's go knock on a door. And if you need someone to go knock on a door of a guy who works for the government and used to be in the Air Force, I work for the government and I used to be in the Air Force. Those are two home runs for connecting for rapport. And by the way, I also used to do sales. So I don't mind knocking on the door and trying to make a friend. And 3 little letters that say FBI and this guy, it's really a good winning combination. People talk to me even if they shouldn't have. And I never took advantage of that, because it's not something you would, I don't need anything to be true. Yeah, so,
but I'll just take it back to it. I remember when we first did our first interview, I just started just spitting stuff out. And we talked for like, what, 2.5, 3 hours? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, I can easily chat with people and elicit information in a non-creepy or a disingenuous way. I'm just going to talk to people and I make a friend. That's what we used to call it in sales. Pick up the phone, go make a friend. I can go make a friend with somebody who used to work in the Air Force that maybe is a little bit socially inept, which is what this guy's story is. Maybe someone who found himself in a weird spot and probably felt a little weird about a friend that he hadn't seen in 50 years popping in and staying with him. And when the FBI knocks on the door and goes, look, man, I don't know what you got yourself into, but my guess is you probably don't know either. Can we figure this out? Because I don't want anyone to get hurt. And I don't think you do either. Like, you're a patriot who's lived your whole life taking care of this country, and you're retired from the military and you served. So, like, let's fix this problem, whatever it is, so nobody gets hurt in the future, whatever this thing is. And when I made that recommendation, let me go do a knock and talk. That's an easy lift. It's like, I'll ditch the vehicle. I'm not going to burn any credibility, or I'm not going to burn any cover. I'll walk up there, which, by the way, we couldn't have parked there anyway, so I would have come in on foot. I'd knock on the door, me and another agent, or just me. And I could have bought one of my buddies. I mean, look, the thing about my squad was we were really capable. We had Arabic speakers. We had Spanish speakers. We had black guys. We had Latino guys. We had tall guys. We had short guys. We had pretty girls. We had not as pretty girls. Like, we had all the capabilities to do all the things if we needed to have people be there. So, like, me and another guy who looks like me, who was also in the military, that has darker skin than me, could have knocked on that door and made a friend with this guy. And I asked to do it. That's all I said, is like, let's go do a knock and talk, because I don't want someone to drop a bomb in the nation's capital. That seems like a no-brainer. That's a light lift. And so, is it common that the FBI's SOG program, the surveillance teams, does that? No, of course not. But I don't think that our team did what normal people did. We were responsible regularly for good. Yeah, and we regularly did arrests, which you don't see the SOG teams doing. Our team would go and do stuff. We had a day where we went down after child traffickers in MS-13, and the FBI SWAT team from Washington Field grabbed 3 subjects. They did a full team rollout and grabbed 3 different guys. And my team of 11 people in our squad grabbed 3 people as well. And we did them in a real low visibility thing. We showed up at a job site and we pulled a guy up that was framing doors. We went up to another thing and we grabbed a guy who was grabbing a coffee at 7-Eleven before he even made it to the job site. And we grabbed another guy because he had decided to turn himself in, and we arranged a surrender point in Spanish, on the phone. So we did non-traditional things for FBI surveillance. And so for all the former fad fags or whatever that are out there that are concerned about what I'm saying, is like, the reason why I said we could do this is because we did things that normal people didn't do in that job. And we got pulled off the case right away, and we never did surveillance there again. And I've got friends that are still on that team, and they never went back to that address. And there's no real good reason why they didn't. They brought us in to go do computer admin work. And I explained this to a guy on YouTube earlier today. There is a administrative possibility that they did it because they were worried about metrics and they didn't want to have a bunch of leads sitting for longer than necessary. And so they pulled in a highly specialized team that did one specific thing. And that's the government maybe, least threatening answer. And the other answer is that we were too close to getting the right answer and we had to leave. And I don't know what the answer is between those two. Honestly, I don't, and you don't, we won't know because we can't see the FBI's files. But I thought we put guys into the office there that were going to fix that. And we're going to go, oh, well, this is what happened. You got pulled because somebody made a phone call. Some agency said you're going to compromise an asset or an operation, or somebody leaned and said, hey, pull your surveillance team. They're running near something else we're doing. They haven't been deconflicted. That's a possibility.
Yeah, it's not a possibility though. You have to add up all the possibilities, and when you add the possibilities,
it goes towards probability.
Yeah, I mean it's and the probability is so low that no one in the right mind would actually believe it. But the problem that we have is that we have a mechanism, we have an apparatus out there that's this media apparatus that will run and ruin this Brian Cole guy's life. And not that it's that great of a life, you'd have to admit. I mean, the guy's 30 years old living in his parents' basement. And I think they look at that and go, well, not many people are going to care, right? We could ruin this guy, throw him in jail, give him a light sentence and say, well, you're semi-retarded. So, and I'm not saying he is, but I'm just saying that, he's got some issues. And so they justify the use of this guy in order to take the heat off of the person that works for the CIA. It is textbook CIA. Textbook.
What's really sad too for me is that the old joke used to be between me and some of my buddies that didn't have a lot of faith in the folks that work in the FBI is there's obviously really good guys that I know, guys that I would drop my kids off with and give them no warning and just, say, hey, take care of my kid. I'll be back in 5 days. And they exist for sure. And I still know some of them, but there's a lot of people there that would kick their grandmother into the wood chipper just to get a freaking promotion. And there's plenty of those people. In the world, they exist. So we're talking about people that basically would, there's a fair number of folks that work inside there that don't need to be asked very many times. It's like, what are we doing? This. Why are we doing it? We're the good guys. Okay. That's not good enough for me. It's not good enough for a lot of folks too. But there are plenty of people that work in law enforcement at that level in that particular agency. And, I know that because none of them stood up and said, hey, what you're doing on COVID is wrong. Hey, the fact that you guys are not investigating election interference is not acceptable. We need to be doing better. Or when someone said, hey, I got some questions about this election, they got removed from their job and nobody else said, like, dude, you can't take that guy off the work. He's been doing it for a decade. He's a professional. This is what he does. Let him cook. Let him do the thing that we hire him to do. There was a lot of folks that just basically kept their mouth shut and their head down so they can go get their pension, which, by the way, is the first thing I ever said to Dan Bongino when I went on his program. And that's going back to September of 2022. So I've been, sadly, I've been very consistent on this. And sadly, I have to keep being consistent despite a new president because it's not fixed. And new faces, same problems.
Well, and you talked about new faces, same problems. President Trump, in a hot mic moment, literally said that. He's like, I can recommend anybody I want for the job. They run the clock and their time expires and I'm right back to square zero and nothing gets accomplished. So President Trump is starting to recognize that what they did in 2017 to 2020, they're doing it again. They're playing the same playbook. And it's from within his own party. We're not talking about these problems existing from the Democrat side. These are people that are, lifelong, Republicans. And I think he actually had some missteps when he went after Marjorie Taylor Greene, because I actually think that she was doing the best that she could in order to protect President Trump from this cabal of people that were going after her. So she became the person he shot at. Frankly, Mr. President, if you're listening to this, and hopefully you listen to at least some of the things that we put out there, I would pick up the phone, call Marjorie Taylor Greene, and say, look, I'm sorry. And I know you probably haven't said sorry many times in your life, but you need to make that call. Right? You need to tell her that she needs to stay on and stay in Congress and then get to the bottom of the election machines and the stolen elections. Because frankly, that's what we're dealing with right now. It's a bureaucracy that's been assigned and built by people that were assigned and selected at every part of the spectrum, from local all the way up to the federal level. And I mean, we're paying the price right now. We're this close.
I'm not a big MTG fan in general. I don't think that the way
I'm
that
not
she
either.
lives her life, it's not compatible with like the things that I think are important. Even the fact that like, yeah. All of that being said, she made the better call. She picked the winning team, and she's getting off the ship that's sinking because they're going to lose the midterms with this sort of stuff that they're doing. And I don't think that Donald Trump knows all of this, so I don't put it all on him. But you know what? He has to, because that's what the job is. It's a big job. It's not a job that everybody wants. Most people don't go like, I don't think I'd be a good president. If you ask me, Kyle, could you run this country? I go, probably not. I don't know that I would even want to. But if you sign up and say, I want to, and you don't have 20 people that you can trust that would make the exact same decision you would want them to in that moment, or at least they would make a decision that was as good because of their principles and their morals and their history with you. You hired a bunch of people that are a bunch of suck-ups and liars. And so you've got people that are giving you bad information, and you're making tactically unsound decisions from incomplete intelligence.
All right, so
and that's what's happening in all these places.
Yeah, just so we're clear. I listened to Pam Bondi in a meeting where they had a cabinet meeting, and she's like, "Well, Mr. President," she's going straight to niceties. I don't have niceties, by the way. I don't have the ability to have niceties.
I do think Donald Trump tends to find people that will do that because he wants to be told how great he is, and that's a failing. That is like if we were going to say what the tragic flaw of this man is, like many men, it's pride, and people telling you that you're doing a great job when in fact they need to give you hard truth. And if you don't have people that you can trust to come up to you and say, sir, by the way, you're out of line on this. I have people in my life that'll call me up. You have people in your life that will call you up.
I'll call you up. I have called you up.
If I'm completely out of line, I want to know before I do worse. And but I need evidence. You can't just say, oh, I think you're wrong. That doesn't work. And that wouldn't work for a Donald Trump either. He's very confident and to the point of cocky or arrogance. So be it. That's a high self-assessment. And that's where he's at. That's all fine. But somebody needs to be able to come and tell him, like, you're out of line, and here's the reasons why. I need you to hear that. I need you to hear me say these things, not because of I need to be right, but because you can't afford to be wrong in this. And that is where the country is at right now, because if you don't figure this out, and by the way, like, we're basically, I'm going to call it, we're at halftime, if not further, because the game ends at the midterms. If they don't hold on to it, like, he gets impeached for the rest of his 2 years.
He will.
It's an ineffective lame duck, and I think that will be the end of it. And then they'll come after everybody, and they're going to kill some people. They're going to put them in. The left doesn't miss when they take a shot. They don't pull a Jim Comey where, oh, they got the indictment, but it doesn't actually hold water because you improperly appointed your United States attorney. That doesn't fly on the left. They put people in prison. Go look at the J6ers. There's plenty of them. Go look at what happened at the state level, whether it be Fannie Willis or whether it happens in New York or it happens in Colorado with Tina Peters. When they go after people, they get them because they have all the means all the way up, and everybody is green. They're green all the way up on the op. All the way. They don't miss those things, or they have enough contingencies that one of them works. Right? One of them works.
What you just said. They have enough contingencies that one of them works. And I will tell you, from my standpoint, I have to keep very, very, very good records of myself. I have to make sure that I know where I am, that because what you just said is the thing that I'm most afraid of, is that they could set me up at any time. So I'm never in a place that I'm not supposed to be. I'm never in a place talking to someone I'm not supposed to talk to. I never put myself in a position where I'm out of scope, so to speak, right? And
I had a moment at a Project Veritas party. It was very weird for me. And I don't think there was anything meant by it, but it was just a moment that I was like, these moments, what we know about.
Yep.
Lady walks up. She's one of the Project Veritas undercovers, which means she's a 10 out of 10. She's a knockout gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And she's talking to me in the way that women who are doing the work that she used to do does. And it's handsy, but not inappropriate, but it's super friendly and familiar. And we just met, and I don't know you. And my wife is freaking 30 yards away, and she doesn't know that. And so she's like talking to me and like, can I ask you? And it's like, nope. I'm going to go hang out with my wife now. Really nice to meet you. I don't need the attention of beautiful woman like that looks like it could go somewhere that it doesn't. And I'm not going to say anything to you, no matter how pretty you are or how nice you are or how much you're my bro because we were all in the same military or we worked in the same law enforcement world. I'm not going to say something to you that I wouldn't say to anybody because I don't know you. And you have to live in the same world.
Vegas.
That's it. You're not going to find me doing things in Vegas that I shouldn't be doing. I'm going to hang out in the places I'm going to hang out. You're not going to see me spend money I don't need to spend. If I buy something expensive, it's going to be a gun or night vision. Like, that's just who I am. That's the thing where you're going to see my money, right? I'll cheap out on dinner and go buy myself some expensive ammo or something. Like, it's just, I'm the same guy and I need to be the same guy. And it turns out it's because I can't afford to be wrong on this and I can't afford to give an easy shot. And neither can Trump right now. And he's been given a bunch of He's been given a bunch of leash to people. They've got the same prosecutor on this case for Brian Cole that went after Enrique Tarrio, went after Mike Flynn. And that doesn't mean that she hates Mike Flynn or she hates Enrique Tarrio or that she's a hardcore leftist. That doesn't mean any of those things. This is the problem that the political right always fails at. That's why I'm not a Republican. If you think that teams are Republican and Democrat, you're a fool. You're looking at a two-dimensional, you're looking at a checkers match. That is not what's happening here. The people that are doing this are doing what is in the best interest of themselves and their agencies to continue doing what they're doing. Washington, D.C. is not a self-licking ice cream cone with one ice cream cone that has one tongue. It is a million ice cream cones by the name of every single bureaucracy, maybe even every office in that bureaucracy, and they're all self-serving. They all look out for themselves to the point where the individual employees do as well. So they're all good Germans. They're all good Americans. Call it what you want. They're all people that are willing to follow the orders in so much as the orders benefit them, their longevity, their career, the reputation of the agencies they work at that they're going to go and trade on later in their life. Like, this is not that hard stuff to figure out.
No, it's absolutely not that hard to figure out, but it is hard to maneuver through because there is a weakness. There is a weakness to President Trump, and that is, he does want affirmation, right? That's a big problem. And one of the things that I think is a bigger problem is that when you start seeing that much affirmation, that means, in other words, I see the different meetings that he has, and somebody will say something to him, and then you'll have, I'm not going to mention the guy's name, but he'll say, "Mr. President, we're winning." And I'm looking at him like, winning? You're not winning shit. You haven't won anything.
It's knob slobbery is what I call it. It's my favorite term. It's the knob slobbers.
Stealing it. I'm stealing it.
Yeah, you can have it. You'll just see it. You'll be like watching. Even Dan Bongino did this the other day when he was on Hannity. He's like, blah, 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 blah. I'm confident the public's going to have it. And I just got to say to Donald Trump, this is what happens when you do. And then it's like, blah, 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 like knob slobbery. It's just gross. It's gross to watch. We know that you're
do it. You shouldn't have to do it.
Do you ever, you've had a lot of employees in your life.
I have.
I've had some, and I've been an employee. And when I'm doing a great job, I don't have to tell my boss ever, unless they come in and say, hey, like, what were the things that you accomplished today so I can understand? I got to brief it up somewhere and I don't have time to look into your work. Then I can tell you what they are off the top of my head. But I don't need to tell you I'm doing a great job because you're going to see from my work that I'm doing great jobs. In fact, if you need to be able to tell someone that you're doing a great job, it's not that great. And so the people that speak the best about themselves and want to do this self-promotion, it may be effective in garbage corporate culture, but those are not your workers. And everybody knows that. In EMS, we have a different way of talking about it. I had a guy, his name's Bob Lanier. He was my teacher for high school biology as a senior, AP biology. And Bob Lanier used to make this joke. He was like a real unconventional, kind of off the cuff guy. He would say things that were not appropriate for. We went to an all guys Catholic high school, so we could say all kinds of wild stuff. And he said, "Boys, let me just tell you a little lesson." Bob Lanier was like kind of a Texan, and he said, "You got to stay away from the screamers." And everybody's like, we're a bunch of high school, testosterone-ridden boys, like interested in girls that know nothing about girls, and you got to stay away from the screamers. What do you mean there, Bob Lanier? And what he said is that if you ever get on an accident scene and you come upon an emergency scenario, you stay away from the screamers because the people who can scream have an open airway. And I remember learning the same thing when I was going through EMS, training to become a paramedic. If somebody is making loud noise, they have a patent airway. So when I hear a baby screaming and people you show up on a call, a screaming baby is a wonderful baby because they can breathe. Right. Yeah. And the people that are talking the most, what do they say when you were a kid? Maybe like whoever talks the most eats the least.
Yep.
So you want to get after the eating, you want to get after the doing. You don't have time to be briefing. And this is the problem with government culture is that we promote people that talk the best game, but that usually means the people who are not doing the eating, they're not doing the working, they're not doing the best accounting or programming or ditch digging or anything else. They're the ones out there talking about how it's going to get done. Don't talk, show me. And I've had somebody in my social media feed recently said, everybody here is now from Missouri. We're all in the show me world. Stop talking about it. We don't need you to brief it.
I say it to everyone in here. Don't talk about it. You got to be about it, right? Be about it.
Right.
I don't want to hear about it. I don't.
And honestly,
they're like, we're going to win. You're not winning. You suck. I mean, look, Kyle. I was just on a meeting. I was just on a meeting with, 20 or so people inside of a company that I help run. And I said, I asked three of the people that were on the call individually, I go, tell me what kind of grade you give yourself, A to F. And he said C. And I was like, C? You haven't done anything. How'd you get a C? The participation trophy, you just showed up? The whole place goes silent. And I go, tell me what you really. I said, forget it. Stop talking. I said, Matt, what do you give yourself? And he's like, F. I was like, and what are you going to do to fix it? I'm sitting there yelling at him, and they're all sitting there like this, like. And I go, look, you think I'm here to be your friend? I'm here to look. I'm your coach, right? And you all suck, like you super suck. And then I turned to someone that's been with me for 10 years, and I was like, listen, I'm not chewing your ass. I was like, is this anything that I would say to any other company? She's like, no. Matter of fact, it's motivational because at least you know where you're at, right?
Yeah, it's not like we're about to liquidate.
He doesn't know where he's at. He doesn't know.
If you can't get accurate self-assessment, if you can't get ground truth, then you're just getting estimations, and especially if they're people who have a vested interest in kind of briefing you in a flowery way that's not accurate. Give me the worst case scenario every single time. Are we going to lose everything? Okay, cool. Is there anything we can do to mitigate? What do we need to do right now? What do you require to be able to ward off this worst case scenario? I don't understand how people walk in there with this rosy, the world is all better again. I'm looking, my gas prices are about what they've been. They're not significantly better. I know my grocery prices are crazy high. Okay. I know that I lost a sponsor because they said they couldn't afford to sponsor me because they have to pay tariffs now on the product they bring in and they don't have money for advertising. That's a bad decision by people who do marketing, but whatever. They made a decision that they didn't have the margin and our returns weren't there. Okay, fine. I'm on board. Look, I'm willing to lose sponsors. I'm willing to pay more money for gas, and I don't care what the groceries cost if you do the thing you said. And you know what he said he was going to do? Get rid of the IRS. He was going to fund it through tariffs. I'm willing to lose money if you shut down the IRS. But you know what you also got to do? That means you got to fund it through tariffs, which means you can only fund about 10% of the government as it currently exists. So you want to go and press me? You already said it on the campaign trail. I want you to do what you said. I'm not mad at President Trump for the things that he claimed he was going to do. I'm mad he didn't do enough of it, and not even close. Like he's not even near what he said he would do on almost any topic.
But here's the issue.
Are there 10 million deportations this year?
No, but there's about 2.
Yeah. So is it?
Yeah, self-deportation is 1.4 million. Just about 600,000 has been pushed out.
Okay, so we're gonna give them that's 10% of what the conservative estimates of too many people in this country.
Well, no, so I listen. I agree with you.
I'm just saying. So you got 90% left, and at that rate, you might get, because there's also going to be people who creep in and overstay visas and so on. Let's say if you did that, you get 40% in 4 years. If we think we can hold it for that, I don't think they will. And you're also, by the way, your self-deporters are your most motivated. Those are not going to be the same number of self-deportations next year.
And let me tell you something. We got a bigger problem, Kyle. We got a bigger problem.
Yeah, there's not going to be a real election ever.
You don't have any Padawans. Right? There's no one coming behind.
Yeah, what's your stable look like, right?
I mean, if you want to call it the stable, the stable is unstable because you got a bunch of people that are telling you that you're great and everything's great. We're doing great. You got a 70-year-old Gold Star mom that's sitting in a jail right now, and you can actually push the button to bomb an entire country over somewhere else, but you can't get a 70-year-old woman out of a jail cell. And the people around you are telling you that it's not a possibility, even though it is. It's untested.
Right, and you believe that.
You believe it. That's what you just said. And the fact that nobody's been arrested.
Why?
We have all the information for whistleblower. And look, I'm sorry to bring it back to elections, but Kyle, if we don't have free and fair elections, we literally have nothing. We have nothing. And
this was the same problem in 2020.
Well, and that brings me back to the. You and I talked about God's providence, right? I think we both believe in it fully, right? That God puts you in a position where you have to make a decision. There was a fateful night on November 6th, and I made a fateful decision that I had to stand up and I had to talk about this guy, Eric Coomer. I didn't want to do it. But you know what I wanted? I wanted my $250 million payday. That's what I wanted. I wanted to sail. I wanted to go drink Mai Tais on a beach, and I wanted to help people. I wanted to take all that money, and I just wanted to do philanthropy and just help solve problems. God likes solving problems, right? And God had a different deal for me. I mean, when you told me about Steve Baker, and I'll parallel this, and the pipe bomb, you're like, wait a minute, hold on a second. I was on that. Are you telling me that? But I was there. I was literally sitting outside. I was on surveillance for that particular.
When he told me the address, he said, we found the address. First of all, he told me we have this gal and we've identified her. And she's Capitol Police. We got all these things, the gate match and this, and she was at the Capitol and she did these things. And he gave me all the things. And then it was a Friday afternoon before they ran the story, and they ended up dropping it on Saturday. And on that Friday, he called me up after I finished my podcast up, and he's like, "So we ID'd where she was living at the time." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Kyle, it was a half mile away from the from the volunteer fire station that you said you were briefed at about the case to do surveillance. I go, really? And he goes, yeah, it was in Falls Church. I go, what's the address? And he goes, I don't know. And I go, what if I start telling you some street names? Would that help you? And he's like, doggone it, I'm gonna pull over. So he's on the highway and he pulls off the highway and puts on his hazards and pulls on the side of the road. He's in Northern Virginia. And he reads me the address. And I dropped everything I had in my hands and I just said, son of a bitch, they were in on it. And he goes, what? What is it? And I go, that's next door to where we were. It's one address away from where we were. That's 4 years later, almost 5 years later. What in the actual shit are we talking about here? 4 years later, I guess. Well, I mean, the odds of that happening are astronomically insane. Like, even the fact that I would be in a position to take that phone call from a friend of mine who's doing this work, it's not probable. So we're in a place that you have to be. That doesn't, and it just doesn't mean that it's going to be fun or you're going to enjoy it, or, you know, as my dad likes to always say, you know, it's not my will, but thy will. And so if you want to bring it to a position like of faith, it's really, really not fun. I relived a moment today that I haven't lived through in a while about when I got fired, which really sucked. Actually, it was really a bummer, but I knew it was coming because I knew it was going to happen when it happened. I had been removed from my office because of COVID stuff, and I'm out on my own time, and I'm taking my own, you know, my own leave, and I'm out training in the desert, and I'm out doing my shooting and this kind of thing. And this cop drives up, and right when he drove up, I went, son of a bitch, this guy's going to ask me to leave this ground, and I'm not going to do it. I was like, I know, and I'm probably going to get fired because it's not going to go well. But he's going to ask me to do something that he doesn't have the legal authority to do, and I'm going to say no politely, and I'm going to tell him why I know I'm right, but I'm not going to be, because if I can't stand here and shoot where people shoot as an FBI agent in this public land, and people shoot here every day, then none of my neighbors are going to be able to do it. And like, I got a badge and I got credentials that say FBI on it. I'm a federal agent. Like, if I can't do it and say no to this cop politely and just say, hey man, you know, nothing for nothing, I don't think you have the authority to ask me, and I'm not going to do that. Well, then we got nothing. And so I did what I thought I should do. I said no. And, you know, 6 weeks later, they fired me for it. And I knew when it happened. I was like, well, I thought I got away with it too. I actually thought I got away with it. I was like, well, I told my boss and like nothing happened. And he went and told some people about it. And I had them investigate him. And I was like, he's a bad guy. He shouldn't have done that. And they said, yeah, we're going to investigate him. And they closed the investigation after 30 days. They opened an investigation into me on Good Friday of 2022. My wife got baptized on Saturday, Easter Vigil, going into Sunday. And on Monday morning, they took my badge and my gun, and I never worked there again. I knew when it happened. I was like, well, I'd rather be a guy who works here and fights on the inside and does what I think is right, but that's not what's being done. And now I'm sitting here talking to you. I mean, it's not a straight jump, but yeah, I can see the straight line. It's like, I knew when that happened, like my life was never going to be the same because of it. It sucks.
That's what you just said. My life will never be the same.
It just isn't.
Yeah, I knew that moment. I mean, and I remember the moment that I asked you the question about, you know, this is the hard part, is that I know that you go in and out of it. We've talked about this, go in and out of, like, not a rage, but it's kind of a rage. Like you're kind of angry. You get really angry over certain things, and it's injustice is what it is. Like, and that's the thing. Like, you and I both have a keen sense of justice, and when you deal with injustice nonstop, yeah, you know, sometimes it takes you. So what do they say? Sometimes, you know, you get the bull, and sometimes the bull gets you, or something to that effect. 100%. It's like, yeah, sometimes you get spiked by it, man, and it makes you mad. I know you call me mad. I've called you mad. I mean, that's just the way it works. You can only deal with things that are wrong for so long, where eventually it tips you over the edge, and it doesn't feel good. But you keep I keep shrugging because there's no other answer. It's just like all this stuff. It's like these are obviously true for all human beings. Everybody who's hearing this will go like, oh yeah, I get pissed off because of injustice, because injustice is inherently infuriating. It makes a 5-year-old mad. It makes my 2-year-old mad. Perpetually indignant says honor still matters. Honor does still matter. Honor absolutely matters.
You know what? But it doesn't pay. That's the funny thing. It doesn't necessarily pay. So you have to think that there is a different accounting system that matters than just like the financial thing. Because if we looked around the world and we're like, oh, who makes the most money? Who is the most rewarded on this earth? And then I just have to decide, well, is that what the real scoreboard looks like? And you have to decide that it doesn't. You have to decide, do I have enough money to take care of myself and survive? If you hope, I hope so. And then on top of it, can I also do some good for other people when things come up? I can't do big things. I can't buy anybody a house. But if someone comes to me and tells me their refrigerator died, I could probably buy them a fridge, and I will. Honestly, if someone comes into my path, this is the funniest thing. We had a family member, a member from our church was talking to us, and they were telling us something just kind of intermittently, like, oh, we had this thing and this appliance of ours like died. And then the person left, and my wife comes up to me and she was like, I think we're supposed to buy that person the appliance. And I go, okay, do it. Like, you're empowered to do that. I approve this expense. That's a great instinct. And let's do that. And so she reaches out and says it, and they're like, oh, we solved it. And it's like, okay, but I'm always being ready what's being asked of me. And if it means lose my job, so be it. If it means that I don't have a podcast anymore and I got to go dig ditches, so be it. You and I might be digging ditches together. If it means if we got to break rocks somewhere because an evil government comes after us, I guess you and I will be swinging a hammer. It is what it is. It's like,
life's
okay,
not
fine.
supposed to be fair. It's not supposed
Yeah, that's the crazy thing that this is Advent. It's better during Easter to figure this out, but I think it's still relevant. There were two people born without original sin in history, if you believe the Catholic doctrine, which I do. And one of them is Mary, the mother of Jesus, and the other one is Jesus, the Son of God. So that's it. Outside of those people, you're not always in a state of grace, and you're just doing the best you could do. And guess what? The most perfect guy that walked the earth got killed for it. So how much worse? Like, we're lucky that we don't get killed for, being mediocre at trying to do the best we can do. Like, if you think of it that way, it actually makes it comical that our lives are as easy as they are. So that's the shrug.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I came out and I said that I wanted somebody hung. I wanted people hung for treason, right? And the local 9 News used 9 News, which is one of the largest, news organizations here. His name's Kyle Clark. So he came out every day for the last 2 weeks. He's had something he's done on nearly every day. He's done on there, like, Joe calls for the execution of leaders in Colorado, and he's calling for violence, political violence. I said tried for treason and hung by the neck until dead. That's what I said. That's the punishment for treason, by the way. If you don't like it, change the fucking law. But that's what the law says. Right?
It is.
And so this guy has this, like, vendetta against
Here's the
me.
sad thing about that, because what you're saying is a judicial process. And we're like this far away, whether people understand it or not. And this is not Kyle Seraphin, like Fed jacketing you or setting you up for like some inciting violence. This is the realistic, honest assessment held by me and every reasonable man that I've met who talks about it, who just, feels like they don't do what we do. They don't say it in front of a microphone recorded for all time. But when you talk to regular people, they say there has to be justice, at least an understanding that there's an attempt for justice, or man will seek it out in an extrajudicial way.
100%.
And vigilantism is actually the most dangerous and scary thing out there. Like, how close are we to people just going, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to solve this problem because nobody else is.
Well,
how many people are going to look out there and say, did you see that there was a judge in the Netherlands? Did you see this one?
Mm-mm.
Man had his daughter, who was young. I think she was like 3 or 4 years old, killed by what they call a migrant. So I don't know if that's legal or illegal, but whatever. Killed by some like foreign invader. The judge gave the killer 120 hours of community service. And the man got dragged out of the court because he threw a chair at the judge. I'm just going to tell you, something like that happens and you want to give community service because something happens to one of my babies, everybody dies. They're all dead. Everybody's dead that's involved in it. Hands down. Like, I'm going to hell for it. Don't put me in that position because I don't have the strength. I just don't. Or maybe I will have a burst of the Holy Spirit that covers me up, because I've seen people do things that I cannot fathom doing and forgiving killers and things like that. But at the end of the day, no, you don't put, if you don't have justice, well, like I said, you don't know until the moment happens there. That moment could happen and maybe you're overwhelmed by it. I see people do it and I don't get it. All I'm saying is, if we don't have an attempt at justice where people think there's a shot at fairness, which is what civilization is, that thin veil goes away. And like, it doesn't take much. Your kids are hungry, civilization is just an idea, right? The trash doesn't get picked up for a couple of days, maybe a week in New York City. Civilization is not a thing that anybody really cares about. It doesn't take much for modern society to drop the veil and go back to 100% barbarism. That's why we have such an interesting, cultural fascination with the post-apocalyptic world, because it just says, like, what if we just dispense with all the pretend? What if we just went back to what it all looks like in its raw native state? And it's ugly, by the way. It's a real ugly state. I prefer civilization because I got babies. I don't want them to live in a savage world, but it exists and it's just under the surface.
Well, I mean, what you said is actually more dangerous because of the fact that at that point there are no rules, and I think that's why what we have facing right now in our society. That's why what the Democrats are doing, Republicans are doing. That's why both sides are doing and allowing for. And I'm just saying, whether I don't care if it's stolen elections or not holding Comey or other people are responsible or trying to frame Brian. All of that shows that there are no rules. That there are basically two currents. There's an undercurrent, and then there's a current that you can see, the wave that you can see, and the undercurrent. The undercurrent is deadly, and it takes whoever and whatever it wants. So as long as you have your toe in the water, it can drag you in. It can drag you in. So, and that, if you can't see it, if the people can't see it, they can feel it though. They can feel a lack of justice. They can feel a lack of civility. They can feel a lack of fairness. And when they start to feel that way, it takes almost no time in the world before you don't really care. Go to jail. What do I care? I don't
well, it even goes beyond those things because yes, justice, civility, all the other things you just said. But the thing that people can recognize, and I think everybody does, and I don't know anybody that I talk to that doesn't feel this. I grew up in the 80s. I was a teenager in the 90s. And so I remember the last, let's say 30 years, like pretty well. I'm about to be 44. And I don't remember ever a time in my life when things felt so unsafe. Like there was a kind of an undercurrent of anxiety where like there was the potential for bad things happening was like this far away. It always felt more stable, even if it was just bullshit. It was bullshit that everybody agreed to. So we all agreed that the same bullshit was happening. And so we were not in this permanent state of anxiety or, like instability. And everybody kind of feels it. Like, a lot of people are financially so close to the edge, despite doing everything theoretically right or nothing's right that it shouldn't be a problem. Like a lot of people are on the edge that one false move and financially they're ruined. And that weighs on you every day. And then you look and you say, but is there justice? And then you think, well, no, there's not justice. And you're like, is there peace? And you're like, no, there's not peace. And you're like, is there comfort? And there is comfort. That's it. Is there safety? No. And how far away from the edge are we from not having any of those things? It's a razor's edge. And so many people are on the edge on all those fronts. Yeah. That it leaves them in this constant state of like elevated cortisol, elevated stress. And that weighs on you. My wife was like, I don't feel good. Why do I feel like I'm getting sick at all times? And I'm like, your body is fighting your the anxiety that you have because you're recognizing that the world is not very safe. And so, people lived shorter in places when life was not comfortable and life was dangerous. And a lot of it was because just the damn stress of living through that world. Like nobody lives to 100 sitting in a war zone, a perpetual war zone. That doesn't happen. Like certainly not commonly.
Yeah, I mean, if you do, you're just completely unaware of your surroundings.
Yeah, maybe you're a sociopath, I guess, and maybe that's like maybe that's your maybe that's your natural environment. But for those of us that have concerns about other people, it's not just that the society is out there; it's the implication it has for family and the vulnerable. And if we don't protect the vulnerable in this country, like that's kind of what we do. We protect women and we protect children, people who bring the future, the people that are the future. That's what America is about to me. And it's like, are we doing that right now? Or are we like legit sacrificing our babies, whether it be an abortion? Are we sacrificing our babies because of political correctness? We're going to, hand them over to a medical industry. Are we using them for testing for someone else to get rich on? Are we feeding them junk that's not real food? I mean, my kids are really blessed. Man, my kids don't even know what tricks are, Joe. Can I tell you something? When my fourth daughter was born, I did a dad trip. I was kind of like, this was amusing. Like, I just have to find ways to be the dad that I think that I am. So I took all my babies, my three bigger kids, and we all went to the grocery store. And I said, any cereal in the aisle, no matter what it looks like, you can pick out your box because you got a new baby sister, and I need something to be able to distract you. When I pour a bowl of cereal with like no thought, you can have the sugariest, shittiest thing that you want to eat, whatever it is, the thing they've never had before. You want to get Reese's Pieces in a bowl, knock yourself out. You want to get Lucky Charms, let's do it. They all remember what they bought. This was 2 years ago. My 8-year-old, my now 7-year-old, and my 4-year-old. Even when he was 2, he remembers picking out a cereal box. Okay, and he knows what it was. So they all got it. None of them know the name of that cereal. They don't know what it was called. They don't know what Lucky Charms is. They don't know what tricks are. They don't know what Captain Crunch is. My kids don't know what junk food is because, God bless my wife. She literally makes them eat real good food. And so we're doing this weird thing that many people, we are so anti-current for regular. And I almost feel bad because growing up in the time that I did, like, you'd be a weirdo if you were 8 years old and you didn't know what Captain Crunch was. They don't even watch television, so they have never seen a commercial.
That's pretty much all I did know. I knew all the Lucky Charms.
I know.
I mean,
yeah,
it was
you and me both.
Junk.
I ate a lot of Cheerios growing up. I ate a lot of food that like is recognizable to people that grew up when I did. And so it's funny to me that my kids, we are deliberately and aggressively working against that. And we are a very, very narrow subset, it turns out, maybe a growing subset, but there's not a lot of people that are doing that. I think a lot of people are recognizing like, hey, we got to work against the current. But it's amusing to me to think that a lot of people are just going with this current, and the current is going in a place that's really dangerous and it's scary, and they all feel it. They're like, hey, it's the Willy Wonka moment, right? And he's like, the danger must be growing because the rowers keep on rowing. We're all going, and the rowers on both sides of the aisle are doing it. And that was a scary as hell scene. I went back and watched it with my babies the other day, and God, you know what? It's even funnier. They like the original. They like the original Willy Wonka over the weird one that they did with whatever his name is. Who's the new one? Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp, yeah.
They like the Gene Wild one, so that was better.
Yeah. Better.
So I mean, but the good news is my kids saw that too. They thought it was better. But he's like riding, and it's like, there's arachnids coming out, and there's like freaking hermit crabs crunching things and ants biting stuff, and it was all scary as shit in that tunnel. We're in that tunnel right now. Like, that's whatever that weird. The voices are getting louder. The anxiety is obviously ramping up. The speed is increasing. At least it feels like it is. And maybe we stop and it's easy and like we got to our destination and everything's fine, or more likely than not, it just keeps getting bad. And I don't want to see what the other side looks like for that. Because again, we got little kids in the world. There's a lot of young people out there that are going to know nothing other than that.
And I think what you just said is interesting, because when you look at your kids not knowing anything different than that, you try to shelter them as much as you can, knowing you can only be around for so long. So it means you have to train them up in this new world. And
I'm doing it.
The scariest part for me, for my children, is my kids are 25 and 28. And I was talking about that Kyle Clark guy. Well, Kyle Clark, when he does these things, he would say, Joe Oltmann, MAGA podcaster from Douglas County, and does everything he can to make sure that he can hone in on who I am and where I live. Well, then the death threats just started piling up. And I mean, I'm talking about, let's just run up on Joe, we're going to take you. I mean, just stuff that it's sick stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, the person that's responsible for it is the same person that doesn't want these people to be held accountable for committing crimes, treason, hurting our country. And yet he sends his little band of goons out to do harm to me, not knowing that the person that comes to my home will be unalive, and that person's entire family will be unalive, because I won't. That person.
I say the same thing on social media whenever I don't get nearly as many death threats as I expected to get. So for whatever it's worth, that's a blessing, I guess. Also, whenever somebody gives me a death threat, I'm just like, don't send anybody you want back.
Or your family, because I tell you what, if I'm going to jail, I'm going to jail because I'm going to take out your entire generation. I'm going to make sure that you never procreate. Like
you're cutting that branch off the family tree.
I already know this about me, right? I know that a long time ago, I set that demon down. And I replaced it with the blood of Jesus. And I literally have lived my life the last 18 years in a way that I'm not a Boy Scout, but I think you could call me a Boy Scout. You could say that as close to living your life in a righteous way, I've done it, right? And I can tell you right now that I look back at that demon, I think to myself, if you come for me, I'm coming for all of you, right? And I mean it. Like I've already made the decision. It's like you've already made the decision in your life that you're going to protect your family, and you're going to protect what is yours. And they just and this is the scary razor's edge part, is it just takes one crazy guy, right? It just takes one crazy guy.
It also takes, we live in a world that's lacking physical consequences, and I think that's also something that has been rapidly advancing in my lifetime, to the point where, like in the 80s, you stepped out of line, like maybe you get punched in the face, and then that's it. You don't have to go any further than that. Someone learned their lesson. And so, I have buddies that grew up in New York and Long Island, and they used to talk about getting into fights and stuff when something had to happen. They just solved the problems. They went outside, they threw some hands. That was the end of the day. That's not the world we live in right now. We live in like weirdos that want to come in and bomb a house, or they want to sit out there. Like, I saw something that blew my mind the other day, and I can't fathom anybody thinking this is a good idea. I saw 3 guys wearing like clown masks in Northern Virginia knocking on the door of an old lady. And they're sitting there like claiming that they're going to come into the house, scaring the living shit out of this poor lady on her Ring cam. And I don't know if you've seen the video. It was like a viral thing for a little bit on social media, but it's like 3 goons, whoever the hell these guys are. And I don't know what their skin color were or what their politics were or like where they came from or anything about them, because they were all wearing clown masks. And they're like saying spooky, stupid, dangerous, threatening things outside of someone's door. And I told my wife, I was like, honey, just so you know, if I ever see that on the Ring cam, I'm sending rounds through the door. Yeah, I'm not waiting. I got a 45-70 with an easy grass there. I'm going to send something that'll go through 6 feet of bone and muscle. I'm going to put holes in the neighbor's car on the other side of those guys.
Don't care.
And, you know, don't care. Yeah. How did you think that it was reasonable to go to somebody's castle and not bring an army? You crazy person.
They went and did this to an old lady, though.
To an old lady.
They thought it was funny. Right. And that's, you know, I get these posts. And look, I'm not a violent person. I'm not. I love people, man. I figured that out about myself. I say that I don't like people. I love people. I love the most vulnerable among us. But these people are just sadistic. I put up something about Tina Peters and they put, I'm good, let her rot in jail. I hope she dies there. This is who they are.
Yeah.
This is truly who they are.
It brings out visceral anger. I mean, there's no other way to talk about it. You just feel like you're freaking enraged when you see some. And the other day is like, is that even a Chinese bot? Is that even a real person? That's the thing that bothers me. Is it just something that is created, like not even real, to do that, to get strife and discord? Is that what's going on? Because a lot of that is what's happening. And that's why social media is so gross. You know, like 100%, 10 out of 10 of the audience that I had, I did a call-in show with some of my subscribers once. And I just said, here's the question of the day. I want your answer. You can justify it any way you want. You got a red button in front of you. You push the red button. The internet goes away, as does all social media. So that's the trade-off. Are you in or are you out? Who's hitting the button? 10 out of 10 hit the button, because we remember before that.
Because it was awesome.
It was awesome.
It was awesome.
But that being said, I work a job now where that, like, the internet allows me to do what I do, and that's also kind of awesome. So this is the part where it's like, but I still would get rid of it in a heartbeat for my kids, and I'd go dig ditches or whatever. I don't know why that's what they said in my family. My dad always said that. If he had to, he would dig ditches, and I'm like,
I dug ditches.
I guess I've done dug ditches too. I don't mind. I'm a good dick. I dig some ditches, man. My dad is actually digging.
You said you were going to be.
I dig some dickus. Dig digger. My dad is what is he? He's 70. He's 76 years old, and he is out digging ditches right now as we speak. He is out digging in his yard, and he is setting up a putting green in his desert little home in Arizona, because nobody's going to do it as nicely as he is. So he's digging, and he told me, he said, you know what? I listened to your podcast, and I reminded myself, when I take my wrench, I'm going to put my rake, rather, I'm going to put it tines down, because otherwise I'll step on it and pull a Cash Patel and hit myself in the face with it. And I thought that was funny. But yeah, he's out there in the desert, freaking scraping dirt together. A lot of hours in my life doing that. Yeah, living it like he's retired. He doesn't have to. He chose to. Yeah. So I'll do that in a heartbeat. If we can red button the internet away, I would do it. We'd lose a lot of connectivity, but I bet we'd have a lot more connection.
I think that's it. One thing I can say about this, the blessings, and it's super important that we look at the blessings too that we have. We have all this bad stuff that's happening, and people do bad stuff to you. And my wife looked at me and she goes, "Are you happy?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I still laugh, and I still crack jokes, and I still have fun. Yeah. And I get into the part where I have to defend someone like Tina Peters, or I have to, get online and smack people around because they're saying bad shit to you or other people. That I frankly, you don't need me to defend you, but I still feel like I can in those areas. And then when I'm done, I turn it off, throw it away. I'll text you and be like, dude, let's hang out. Because I'd rather do that.
It's better. I need to take my little guy. He's obsessed with right now. Every store, he wants to know if they sell worms, because he wants to go throw some worms in the pond and catch some fish. And it's been crappy kind of weather, but it's like getting better. So I'm like, all right, you're gonna have to go get some worms.
I got a ton. Have you done any fly fishing?
No, never.
Never?
No, but like you would expect of me, I have more than one fly fishing rod. I've just never used them.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's serious.
Dude, fly fishing for me is like heaven.
Yeah, I don't like fishing. I don't like fishing.
What?
At all. No, I don't like it.
Ah, dude, I love it.
The only fishing I ever really enjoyed was going deep sea fishing. I did that when I was in my 20s a lot. I used to go out and we would go catch shark and we'd catch snapper and ling and cobia and all that. And I like big, crazy, aggressive fish that can hurt you and take a lot to get in. And anyway, like
It's 3.5 hours from where you live.
what is the water?
Big fish, like what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, I know that.
Literally
I
go
just
down
like,
to Port A and just go,
I used to go to, that's where I used to go. I used to go to Port A, but here's the thing. Like, I don't know somebody that has the boat, and I also have more obligations with little kids. And so you got a big boat now?
No, but I got someone that has a big boat.
That's even better. That's actually
I've
better
had a
than
big
having
boat
a boat.
before, and
Yeah.
I know that the better than having a big boat is not
Having a
that have
friend.
big boats. Yeah.
Yeah, or having a friend who has a friend with a big boat. That's even way better. So, yeah, I used to have all my own deep sea tackle. I used to have like Penn reels, and I used to have international setups and all that, the big brass reels and all this kind of stuff. And I'd go out there and I'd spectral line and we'd go catch big stuff. And I had a lot of fun doing that, except I always got sunburned. And I also went out in like really horrifically bad weather because like my buddy who wanted to go fishing with me would make
And you got
terrible
sunburned?
decisions. Well, we would get sunburned or we freeze our ass off. So like I remember going out and like I went out of Port A in like early February. When it was, and then we went out there and like everything was jacked up. And we couldn't figure it out. I went out there after eating. You know what? You're in San Antonio sometimes. You know Las Palapas?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if
There's
they have
8
good
or
food
10
anymore.
different locations. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever the one that we went to was not good. The day that I remember getting it, I ate Las
They're not good,
Palapas. I
period.
can't. That's what I assume. And then we went out there on the boat, and I was like puking my guts out over the side. And I don't get sick, but I ate bad Mexican food, so I was puking my guts out, chumming the water, and pulling in like monster jackfish. I was pulling in like 40-pound jacks while like mid heave. I mean, I don't do anything halfway, so I used to do that, but like now I got like a 4-year-old, so I got to do 4-year-old stuff. I can't like
That is 4-year-old stuff.
kind
4-year-old stuff.
I mean,
With
I want him to
good
be able
weather.
to remember.
It's a really good. Yeah, no.
Yeah, with good weather. Yeah, not shitty weather like I used to go out. We used to go out, man. My buddy and I, we'd hit the wave, and as soon as we'd like leave, we'd leave the jetties where you like go into the open water. We'd just like we'd always bring somebody with us to like split fuel costs and stuff like that and bait. And then he and I would start singing the song "Farewell and Adieu" to the Spanish ladies from Jaws, like a couple of psychos. We would just sing that shit in the dark, like riding out toward the moon, like heading out into the Gulf of Mexico. We were some spooky weirdos. We were dummies. But yeah, I haven't done that in years, and yeah, maybe we'll do that. But yeah, there's plenty of real life that's still not crazy. And here's the thing: you and I are ate up with all this stuff and the politics of it and the failing of the government. And man, I'd say 80% of America has absolutely no freaking idea what you're talking about. And I know that every day I go to a playground and I talk to them. I can't. They don't speak the same language as me. I'm in like the hyper sliver of like crazy political nerds that care about the nuances because I know that nuance is what's going to kill us, but they don't. It doesn't seem to. I mean, they're happier not knowing. I used to not know, and I was happier too.
I don't even think though.
I have to know now.
I think that more people do know now than ever before. And
Yes.
so I think your likelihood of running into
So less people
that
are happy than they've ever been.
that's true on both sides.
I know.
And I said, if the Republicans are upset and the Democrats are upset, and everyone's upset, but the government they're still smiling on the TV saying that they're going to solve all these problems, then you got a big fucking problem. I mean, literally, the undercurrent is literally just destroying society, and we're watching it happen.
I think this is
Yeah.
This is what I assessed. Maybe give me your 2 cents on this. I think that the political left's answer to any problem is a government solution.
Yes.
Right? That's pretty common.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing. I think that the political right's answer to any governmental problem is more government.
I agree.
And so in almost all things that are the problem related to government, the same people have the same answer. And that's why that's what a uniparty looks like. If everybody thinks the problems in government can be solved by government, and then one team also thinks that all the other problems can be solved by more government, we're fucked on that end because everybody is just thinking the same way. Meanwhile, there's guys out here going like, hey man, divest it to the states. Why don't you let private charity take over? What if we strengthen the church and communities and did things that actually had nothing to do with government? You can't mandate morality on people. You can only just show people a better way and have them live it. By the way, we used to do that. And this country used to be 90% plus Christian. And now we're 60% Christian, and you wonder why you have, 50% more problems, or maybe 200% more problems. You can directly correlate it to a fall off. And by the way, go read the book of Judges, people. This has all been done before. That's the other thing. It's like, it's so inevitable. You got bad leaders on earth with more and more bad problems because it's all driving off the same direction. And then we act like it's new. And then like, look, I know that the problems that we have uniquely are new, but the scenario is old and it is a cycle. And so that sucks because it didn't seem like it went really well for people that were living during that time. It's not an awesome time to wake up and go like, shit, we're only a third of the way through this cycle. It's going to get a lot more spinny and a lot more rinsey, you know?
Well, but once you actually can see it, you can't unsee it. So then
No.
you just, it dulls everything around you because you can see that sooner or later, even the people that can't see it will see it. And when it hits them, it's going to hit them like a ton of bricks because it's going to be so bad that they're going to be like, "Why didn't anybody tell me?" You'd be like, "What? We've been trying to
What do you think I've been doing for the last couple of years? Yeah. Where the hell were you, man?
And you got to know the guys that were standing on the side of the street with a sign that says, "The apocalypse is coming." 10 years ago, that we were like that weirdo, and he's like, "I told you. I kept telling you. I kept telling you 10 years ago, and I kept telling you."
Yeah.
And now we're awake and we're going, "Please put me back to sleep." And partially, I don't want to go back to sleep.
Yeah, and the people who made the Matrix are now transgender. So there's that. You know that?
No.
The Wachowski brothers are now the Wachowski sisters. They're like huge guys that are like awkward shaped ladies. Dressed. They're so go look it up.
That's a real thing. See, there are stuff that I am willfully 100%.
Occasionally, like first of all,
glad to be ignorant of. Huh?
It never goes away. It never goes away in my head. Like I'll always remember it.
You know, I focus in on the things that I feel are the problem, not the symptoms of the problem. So people come to me all the time and they're like, "Joe, you know this is going on, this is going on, this is going on." I go, "No." And then I look it up and I'm like, "Oh shit." I'm like, well, if you have free and fair elections, you wouldn't have that problem because people would actually elect better people and you'd have some transparency in your community. And frankly, these judges never would have gotten to a place where they let the criminals back out to do these bad things to people. Just wouldn't happen.
I went and listened to the Supreme Court. I went and listened. I found it online, but I listened to the online arguments that they were making in the what is it, the Slaughter v. Trump case, or I think that's what it is. This is the attempt to decide whether or not the president is in fact the actual vested person for the executive branch.
Oh my gosh.
And I did it on my podcast this morning. I'm like, this is not very hard, people. Just go look at the Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, the first clause of it. It's right there. It's like the executive authority shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. What is your question? That's what the executive authority doesn't have independence from the, And here's the other thing. They're like, well, what if Congress wants to set up an independent thing? Congress cannot give away powers it doesn't have. That's called the separation. We already have that. That's Article 1, Section 1. Go to Article 2, Section 1 is what I meant, is where the president is defined. This stuff is not actually that hard. And so like back to basics, it's just like every time you see somebody when they start getting too fancy. You remember the movie? They do it in Mighty Ducks. They did it in Major League. It's like whenever the team starts having a downside, what do? You go back to fundamentals. This country needs a real simple fundamentals. It's like simple. How about look at the rules? We have a governing document. They're not really that complicated. An average person can read it right now. If you haven't read the Constitution in the last couple of years, go read it. You'll feel better. If you're in law enforcement, go read the Bill of Rights immediately. Make sure you can name all of them and why and how they apply to your job. And then don't violate it. That's all. If we just had people do that, we'd be good. But
I want to point something out just to kind of put a bow on it. Then I'm going to ask you a question about the Constitution because I think it's really important that we actually separate states' rights from the federal government. But the fact is that our founding fathers created a very worded document that allowed for checks and balances to exist between the different areas. I think that checks and balances would also include the states. And that if a state goes off the rails, there's got to be a way to get that state back by using the federalist society, the supremacy of the federal government, the fact that all the parts are separate, but they're all still a part of the jelly bean container, so to speak. Right?
Well, and here's the funny thing. The left loves using the supremacy clause, except when they like using states' rights, because whatever it is that they can get to work. The right always tries to play by the rules that they think exist, and they're never willing to stretch it. And so you got one team that's playing, I always say this, is like one team is playing chess or checkers or take your pick or whatever the game is, and they're sitting at the table in the park and they're playing, and the other team is driving a freaking monster truck through it. They don't give a shit. So they're not playing the same sport. They're not playing the same sport.
And they're being aided by weak people in our government. They also
we can't do that. Oh, that's not possible. Like, oh yeah, we're not able to do that.
Worry about it later.
It's like, dude,
rip the damn Band-Aid off. You want to save the world?
I told my buddy Garrett O'Boyle. I told Garrett O'Boyle, who's now been reinstated at the Bureau, even though they haven't given his back pay. They owe him $500,000 or whatever it is. I told him real clearly, I was like, if they come for you, they put you in prison, I'm coming to get you out. I don't know what that's going to involve. It's going to involve bloodshed, but I'm not that's when the rules are over for me. I'm done. I'm done with it. I'll come get you, buddy.
You better,
Same story.
You better put me on that list.
Mm-hmm.
Put me in, coach.
Let's do it.
I'll come with you. They fired
I'm just saying,
Steve Friend?
No, his attorneys fired him from being, they're not going to represent him in their lawsuit that they have against the FBI, even though that they highlighted the FBI as a material breach of the lawsuit. They said they're done representing him because they sold out to the FBI is my assessment. I think that they actually sold out for access. So Empower Oversight announced that they are no longer representing Steve Friend against the FBI because they think the FBI has done a good enough job of showing good faith, even though they're over 100 days delinquent in default of the agreement that they have. And so anyway,
this even a thing? This is why we cater to the ridiculous.
Dude,
how is somebody not? And this is what I talk about when I talk about lawlessness. We're in a state of perpetual lawlessness.
So
that
listen,
means there's no laws.
You said you thought someone should be hung. I said it on my pod the other day, but I actually said it on a phone call with Jason Foster, who runs Empower Oversight, which was representing Steve and Garrett and a couple other guys. And they asked me, did I tell you this? They asked me for money when I raised all that money for the guys. I raised like $600,000. 13,000 individual donations ranging from $5. The biggest, like we had two $5,000 donations. Everything else was under 500 and a lot of them were under 100. Most of them were under 100. 13,000 and change total individual donations. So they reach out to me and I go, I need to cut these guys a check, but I'm trying to figure out how to do it. And it's not real obvious to me, like what I can do to not hit like a gift tax or trigger the FBI or the IRS coming after me. Cause I know they'll like climb up my ass with a microscope if they have an opportunity. So we want to figure this out. And they go, well, we got a bigger problem. We're not sure that these guys can receive this gift. We're not sure that they're allowed to actually get that money. And I go, okay. And they said, here's what we think, Kyle. Can we do a conference call? So I got on. It was me and Steve, and it was Tristan Levitt.
Oh, I know what's
and
about to happen.
it's Jason Sposter. And they said, what we think,
money.
They said, what you could do is you can, we want to pay one of our attorney friends to do a findings letter, and they can write up the justification that they believe would actually stand in for DOJ policy and allow Garrett and Marcus to receive that money.
250.
And I said, I said, that's great. And they said, and we think we can get it for less than $25,000. Would you be willing to pay $25,000 to this firm? And I said, fuck no, I would not. And they were like, what do you mean? And I go, first of all, I raised this $5, $10, $25 at a time from people in good faith that actually gave from their own hard-earned money. And I'm not going to buy one of your friends a fucking jet ski. So let me make it real clear to you. I think people like you should be hung from the 14th Street Bridge by your neck until your corpse rots, falls into the Potomac, and is swept out to sea, and your body can never be buried. That's what I think. And I think you should hang there as the crows peck at you so that all the people who drive into Washington, D.C. look at you as a harbinger as what's to come for them when the rage of the people who are sick of this bullshit and this shakedown that you do. And you should be ashamed. You should look at the people and you should despair as you see your colleagues there hanging and rotting away from as their corpses are getting picked away by the breeze. And they were like, Jesus, Kyle, like, rah, rah. And I go, now you know how I think. By the way, they never offered to represent me. So apparently I was a little bit too extreme. But I will not make peace with evil. And I will not make peace with people who do that sort of like transactional evil, where just give us some of the money that people gave you in good faith so we can get a piece of paper that some gutless idiot needs to see. I'm like, if I need to give these guys money and they tell me that they're broke, I'll take a damn Greyhound bus with a briefcase full of cash. And or gold bars, and I'll go drop it on their doorstep and then leave and then tell them it's there. I will launder that money to them. I don't give a shit what you think. Like, I'm not going to write you a check for $25,000 for an attorney. And by the way, they were never able to get that justification done. So we found another way to get it to them. And we did. Anyway, it just nauseating.
They could have written this letter with 6 hours of time and a little bit of an AI platform.
Right.
I mean,
and they could have done it like
that way anyway.
They probably would have done that anyway. And they could have done it pro bono. And they were like, we're not saying it will cost $25,000. We're saying it could cost as much. Would you commit to that? It's like, no, I'll commit to nothing. Nothing. Not a red cent. How about that? So anyway, I'm not easy to get along with when people bring me things that I think are totally irrational. And I'm not willing to I don't do things simply because it's the nice thing to do anymore. I don't go like, oh, I just tolerate some petty grievances or like illegal behavior or petty immorality. I just can't do it to the point where like I just don't do things that if there's no good reason, then I'm not doing it. And I got into it with my neighbor, which I felt really bad about because the kid is not that bright. But he was like, "You need to sign in on this sheet." I was like, "I'm not going to sign in on the sheet." And he was like, "No, but I'm like, why do I need to sign in on the sheet?" And he was like, because you have to. It's like, that's not good enough, man. I lived through 2020 and 2021. I don't do things because someone else said, you need to walk down the aisle on this side and not the other side. You know what? Go fuck yourself. That's not how I operate. Call me crazy. You used up all of my good credit where I was going to give you the benefit of the doubt, whoever you are. And so now anybody who meets me, you're going to have to justify what you're asking with real reasons that a regular person can assess to say, oh, well, that's a credible reason. Now, if you have a good reason for something, I'm not going to be like a lunatic. But if you come up to me and ask me to do something and you don't have any justification and you just said, because I said so, like, I'll start by telling you you're not my dad. And it's going to go downward from there as far as juvenile and stupid and maybe aggressive.
Okay, so that
we're a bad pair. We get together and think bad things, man.
We
What
do.
are states' rights? You ready?
Yeah.
Here's the states' rights issue. You want to know the answer?
No,
Ninth and 10th
hold
Amendment.
on. You're going too far ahead of the states' rights issue because you know where
know
I'm
where it
going
is.
with this.
It's the
Right.
9th and 10th Amendment.
It is the 9th, 10th Amendment, but listen to me for a minute because I think it's super important. By the way, most people don't even know how many amendments are there in the Constitution. I frankly find it deplorable that nobody knows, that many people don't know it. It's easy to get to. You have internet. You can actually go look it up and you could read it.
You should carry them around with you. But more importantly, we should have rescinded the 16th, the 17th. We did rescind the 18th and the 19th. We should have gotten rid of the 16th through the 19th. We only got rid of one of the four, and we blew it. Those were the things that are killing our country right now.
But just so you know, for you guys that have internet, he's saying take the ability for women to vote away from them.
And I don't think people should be able to directly elect the senators. And I don't think we should have a. I don't think that the federal government should be
directly elect the senators. It was supposed to be.
I know they changed it. That was the 17th Amendment. Listen, the deal goes this: 1913, where everyone highlights the Federal Reserve being a problem. It's real simple. The 16th Amendment ruined this country. It meant that the federal government now became not just the supremacy clause where their law was the top, but they had the ability to tax before anybody else. So they got access to your money first. That's when we established the ability to do a national income tax. So the 16th is the first
Well, they
problem.
didn't really. Hold on a second. We don't even know that it's ever been ratified.
16th was.
There's a ratification issue on the 16th Amendment still. Am I on crack?
Maybe. Possible.
No, come on.
That's a possible crack. I'm not aware of that one. But at the end of the day, it functionally works. It's kind of like when people say, the FBI doesn't even have a real charter. And I'm like, the FBI will really shoot you and kill you. Are you kidding me? Like, does it matter? They don't have a charter. They'll take you into prison and then they will put you there forever. Go ask any J6er. They can do it. So, whether or not they have a charter is kind of irrelevant. We function under the 16th Amendment as passed. I've never heard of there been a problem. But the ability of the federal government to levy taxes on the income, that's one thing. That's the 16th. The 17th was the direct election of senators, which basically made the upper chamber of the House no longer representative of the states, like it was supposed to. It took the power, gave it back to the mob, which was a mess. And that's why we have this really contentious 51-49 nonsense in the Senate. Okay. The 18th said that people shouldn't be able to drink. I actually am not sure that was a bad idea, but I could kind of think more freedom is better than not. But, people do dumb things with alcohol. That would have been like not the worst thing, but we actually ended up repealing that. And the 19th gave an expansion of the franchise to women, which I think should not have existed, but not because I don't think women should vote. I think they should have a say through their household, which is why you have only head of households men and maybe even just landowners or people who have positive net taxes. Whatever it is, expanding the franchise, as far as I'm concerned, has always been worse. So I said it the other day, I'm against democracy.
We're not.
Joe,
we're not democracy, brother.
I understand that, but when you hear that, you'll hear people say they're like, "That's an enemy of democracy," and I am an enemy of democracy.
Yeah,
it's a terrible thing. Exactly.
Democracy has actually never worked anywhere ever in the history of anything,
and it won't.
Right?
And so
worse
anyway,
than communism killed almost as many people.
So here's the crazy part about it. The more democratic we get, the worse off we are. The reason why our republic was structured in such a way, and everything for at least the last 115 years has been moving this country to a more sort of democratic ideal. And all of those things have been problematic. They're all the worst possibility because democracies don't function, period. Well, that's why our system was so brilliant. It was a filter down system. The Senate was supposed to represent the majority of the state houses, and the representatives, the House of Representatives, was meant to represent us in our districts. So you got a direct vote, then you got an indirect vote, and they were filtered through levels of concentration. In the same way when you go and you distill things,
Right.
The state of Texas is red. We would put 2 red senators, but we wouldn't put the 2 red senators that all the blue people would also agree with. You'd put the 2 red senators that the state house of Texas would go on. Now, they're kind of squishy anyway at this point, but the idea being you should have a super majority. And by the way, if you look at the number of red states versus blue states, you'd have a super majority. It'd be fine. And then you could get functional and you could actually pass things instead of having to do all this like deals with the devil where it's 51-49 and we might have to nuke the filibuster.
Well,
it's like, no, we already broke the Senate. We broke it.
You would have some sensibility to it, right? But there's still an elitist type of environment tied to being in the Senate. I mean, it's basically
but it's supposed to be elite. It's supposed to be elitist.
But it's not anymore. Now, what you're saying is actually true. It's not it basically is slim majority, so you can look like the chaos can favor one side or the other. You just keep going back and forth in this yo-yo, when in actuality, it's degrading it at the same level down. It doesn't depend. It doesn't matter if you're.
It's just a smaller version of the. It's a smaller version of the House with longer terms. And if anyone thinks otherwise, it's just a bigger congressional district, which is a state, instead of a smaller district, which is what you live in. And it doesn't represent what it was supposed to do, which is why it's not functional. And then so they've had to change all the rules in the Senate. And the reason why they changed the rules is because they broke the freaking Senate by who gets represented. It's never meant to have you directly elected. Why in the hell did anyone agree to that? Because they sold democracy was a great idea. You should have a say. You did have a say. Elect your state representatives, period. This is actually not that hard. And then, by the way, the 9th and 10th Amendment are the other answers. Those are the other answers, which is that the states, the states actually are supposed to have the default position unless it's expressly enumerated inside the Constitution. 10th Amendment.
Well, okay, so then
powers not delegated to the U.S. Constitution. They go to the states. People.
So I'm gonna talk to you about some legal scholars. I want to play something really quick. I'm playing it for a reason. This is Kyle Clark. So Kyle Clark reported on Tina's legal argument and the letter that was written. He takes a few shots at me in this.
Good.
But he says in this that a constitutional law attorney reviewed Tina Peters' request for a presidential pardon on state-level charges and found it full of factual inaccuracies, procedural inaccuracies, and legal inaccuracies. This is not true. This is not true, but this is what they said. So I'm going to play this really quick. I'm not going to say anything. We're going to go straight from this to a 1 minute or 2 minute pee break so that Kyle can go to the bathroom. I got to take a piss. This has been 2 hours. So I'm going to play this little clip. We're going to go to just do one commercial and then we'll be right back. And then I want to get your thoughts on this because here's my question. It's never been challenged. There is a supremacy clause. There has to be some sort of checks and balance on a state that basically goes off the rails and holds the people of that state hostage, which is what really has happened in many states and is what's happened in Colorado against Tina Peters, because it truly is operating like a cartel, right? It's the amount of, it's just off the rails. There's no justice in the state of Colorado. President Trump has pardon power. His pardon power is unchecked, meaning they've never done it where someone has had to pardon someone at a state level that uncovered federal crimes or crimes that were committed that go against the Constitution. Now we have it. A letter was written by Peter Tickton that was well researched with legal scholars that said, hey, listen, it says it, meaning the United States. When describing the United States, it says it has the power. So meaning that the United States has the power in order to pardon, or the pardon power then is fully vested in the President of the United States. So I'm going to play this. We'll get your thoughts. We'll go to 1 minute commercial break, and then we'll be right back.
That same attorney for Tina Peters has also endorsed the idea of a military raid to free her from the prison in Pueblo, has also talked about trying judges for treason against America. So, I mean, by that measure, a possibly illegal presidential pardon sounds downright reasonable until you run it by a constitutional scholar. Our Marshall Zellinger did that.
The 9-page document Tina Peters' attorney sent to President Trump seeking a pardon has all the buzzwords to get the president's attention: stolen election, Dominion, Venezuela. It also contains, a bunch of,
factual inaccuracies, procedural inaccuracies, and legal inaccuracies, all of which would seem to undermine a request for a presidential pardon.
Constitutional law attorney Jessica Smith reviewed the letter, particularly the part that says the question of whether a president can pardon for state offenses has never been raised in any court.
My initial review, just to do a gut check to make sure that I wasn't crazy, was about 10 seconds and confirmed that they were not correct.
Of the several cases she found by, searching any legal database, she found a federal appeals case that cited an 1878 U.S. Supreme Court decision.
They are quoting the U.S. Supreme Court saying, if there is no offense against the laws of the United States, there can be no pardon by the president. There were a handful of other cases that I saw. There was one out of Louisiana. There was one in the Seventh Circuit, all of which that said the presidential pardon extends only to federal offenses.
But let's say President Trump were to announce a pardon for Tina Peters, even though she was not convicted of any federal offense. What then?
It would take a presidential pardon and then some sort of court proceeding in either state or federal court where she would need to argue that the presidential federal pardon applies to Colorado's state crimes.
There is a risk if the president could start pardoning for state crimes, depending on who is president.
I can imagine that there are a handful of Republican governors around the country who would be really disappointed to learn that if a Democrat were sitting in the White House, that they could pardon the state law crimes in, say, Florida or Texas.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act.
As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage.
We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
I ate a chocolate, and Kyle will be right back. All right, so here's the concept behind what we just actually heard, right? And actually, Kyle is back, so I'm gonna bring Kyle back in, but this is a constitutional law attorney that is, I think, 30 years old. Jessica Smith. It's always a Smith. It's always a Bob Smith or a Jessica Smith or CIA Smith, we'll call it. The thing is that the law professors and the constitutional scholars that looked at this case when Peter Tickton went through and drafted this letter, these are not people that just got out of law school that say, okay, I'm a constitutional scholar. But I do want to hear what Kyle has to say about us. Kyle, what do you think?
I don't know. If you think something's wrong, you should just go fix it. I'm just saying, let me put that in a different way. It was illegal, it was immoral, and it was unethical to demand that people do COVID tests every 72 hours in my job. Right. There was no background for it. There was no precedent for it. There was no medical opinion that said it was going to help anybody. I have no idea why they did it. It was actually expressly illegal because it was an emergency use authorization device that was being required without allowing for consent, which I didn't consent to. So I didn't do it. And I ended up getting kicked out of my office for it. And that was the federal government. They weren't allowed to do it, but they did it. You know why? They just decided it was the right thing to do. Everybody needs to do what we say. You need to take this COVID shot. You got to do it. Why? Because we say so. I'm not going to do it. Well, you must. You know what? Fuck you. No, I'm not going to do it. That's how it came down to it. It's like, oh, then I don't work here anymore. If the president thinks that this is something that needs to be done, go military or otherwise. Look, you got a shitload of U.S. Marshals. You want to go out there and put her into federal custody, and then you want to work through a pardon process, go take her. What are they going to do? Are they going to stop you? That's the other thing that bothers me. And I feel the same way about the state when it talks about like states' rights issues against the federal government. Man the fuck up, people. Excuse my language. I'm so hot about how weak and how much people are willing to cede to the status quo, and they surrender agency. You have agency. If you think there is something unjust in the world, go fix it. If you need to like litigate it later, and if it means that like some lady who's in her 70s is not sitting in a jail cell while you do it, then maybe that's the right answer. I mean, didn't they take Julian Assange and put him in a freaking embassy so that he could like hide out from what they felt was it was the improper incarceration. They said, well, we're not going to do it. We're not going to surrender this guy. He's in the embassy of Ecuador, I think was the place that he was in London. So he's going to hang out here and not be in custody. Okay, then do that. If that's what it takes, like do the thing that it takes. If it means she lives in the White House for a little while, so be it. I bet they got an extra bedroom. All I'm saying is do the thing that needs to be right. And I don't know enough about Tina Peters' case. I know that Jessica Smith girl looked like she is not as old as some of my underwear. So who cares what she says? I don't give a shit what she says. You're an attorney who's not in a position to make a ruling on that. You're just some lady. Like, you have a law degree. So what? What do you bench?
So do a million other
people. As I used to say to my boss sometimes when he wanted me to do stuff I don't want to do. What do you bench? Seriously. Like, and they'd be like, hey, Kyle, you got to take a picture and give it to the secretary. No, I don't. What does she bench? What does she bench? I don't know. Like, can you physically compel me? Now let's see if you're going to do dick measuring. Can the weak governor of Colorado not turn over somebody that the United States government says we're taking her out of here and we think what you've done is massively inappropriate?
I think
who's going to blink?
I think that's but right now we're blinking.
Of course, because everybody wants. Oh, no one's ever done this before. Guess what? No one's ever done it until they've done it. That's the whole point. Who cares?
They used the 1512 ruling for Enron.
And this is exactly the point. They held a bunch of people on felony charges for obstruction, and they were wrong. And so what do you get? Like a mulligan? Sorry, we just wrecked your life and we spent multiple years in prison. Sorry, we pulled all of Kyle Seraphin's Gmail account and all of his social media contacts. Sorry that the FBI now has all your shit forever because we were investigating you for obstruction illegally. They just did it. They didn't ask any permission. That's the reason why I say when the left does it, they don't miss. So act like
they do it. Because fear of loss is a real thing. And the thing
just do it.
The thing that don't even call it the right. Don't even call it the right. You have a radical, evil group of people that basically do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. And you have this group over here that say, oh, we have to follow these rules. And they're held back, they're tethered by a string that's tied to your ankle that's tied to a fence that's not even in the ground. And we're like this big elephant. We could just move, we can move mountains if we wanted to. We could do lots of different things, but we found ourselves held hostage.
You want to find a lady who's stuck in a Colorado prison and is in solitary confinement, and you don't think that's right, and you're the president of the United States, and you're allegedly the most powerful person in the free world, or the most powerful person in the entire world, and you can't do that, then you can't do anything. Who are you? Nothing. You can't replace your FBI director? Who are you? Nothing. Somebody needs to come in and be like, hey, dude, are you the president, or are you just some dude who gets told what to do? Because I don't think that sits well with Donald Trump. I think he thinks he's the president. So go act like it. And if there's a thing that you want to make happen, go do it. Go make things happen, because here's the other thing. I saw what the other side did when they had the power. They fucked up Afghanistan. They got people killed left and right. They decided to go, like, they do what they need to do.
It wasn't a victimless crime. And they continue to do it.
No. They opened up our borders and millions of people came in here, but that's not the crime. The crime is that millions of people had their identities stolen. Millions of little girls got raped on the way in and were trafficked. And they were like, their life will never be right. Because you left a border open and you said that was what we're going to do to, like, what, change demographics or change like an election process or, like bankrupt our system. No, dude, you want to act like you're the president? Go do president stuff. Presidents do all kinds of wild things. Just do it. Honestly, like, I don't feel strong. I don't know what the constitutional argument. I read the Constitution and I can see it. You can read the whole piece. It's not a lot about pardons. He's the commander of chief. It's Article 2, Section 2. The president shall be commander of and in chief of the Army and the Navy of the United States of America and the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments on any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices, and he shall have the power to grant pardons and reprieves for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. That's what it says. So, is this an offense? Is this an offense against the United States? I don't know.
It is.
So then do it.
The United States.
So then you just make the argument and then you go do it. And then it's like, come get her. What is the that's the bit that, what do you see that in it's the Lord of the Rings movie. It's one of those really powerful scenes. They're like, you want him? Come and claim him. Like, come get him. Who are you going to take him from? You're going to take it from the United States government? You're going to pull somebody from ICE custody? You're going to pull somebody from Border Patrol? You're going to pull somebody from the Marshal Service that goes in? It's like, yeah, we're taking her. She's with us.
So the states
Here's
have
her paperwork.
So we talk about the supremacy clause. We talk about the things that the states are allowed to do, because there's many states that are off the rails because of stolen elections, not because the people in those states feel like they align with these deals. There's no one out there that says we should turn a certain portion of Portland into the Chaz land, right? There's no group of people up in
the Chaz
of any significance in California or Washington that believe that it's a good idea to do ranked choice voting and to allow for mail-in ballots and to allow all the things that are going on. There are some people that for convenience would love to do those things, but it's not like they wake up one day and say, you know what, I actually don't want to vote anymore.
So at the end of the day, I may actually disagree with this, because I actually do think that, like I said, if the president of the United States wants to be the president and wants to do president things, and that involves like pushing the envelope in an operationally moral world, which is that like sort of the ends justify the means, which is what we're talking about. And I don't like that. I don't like it, but that's what the other side is doing. So if you want to play politics on the same category, they got rid of everybody who was not going to do what they said in the military and in the civil service. And I'm a testament to that because I'm sitting here. So I already know what they did. They just did it. They said, hey, we've got a novel theory. They're like, I don't know if we're allowed to drone strike U.S. citizens overseas. Fuck it. Let's just send the drone in. What are they going to do after the guy's dead? Nothing. Complain about it? Are they going to put us up for war crimes? Who's going to send us? No one? Let's do it. So they did it. So this is not a great argument as far as like the moral grounds of it. It's not a great place for us to live. But if we're in a tit for tat, which we are, okay, fine.
We're in a war, Kyle. I mean, this is actually, we're in an active war.
And then the other part of it is that I actually believe the 10th Amendment is the right answer for most states, which should stand up and go, we're not going to do what the federal government says. We're going to take back the power, start the actual revolution, which looks like this. The individual, most powerful governmental entity that you deal with as a citizen should be your state. Now, it's unfortunate there's some states that are completely off the rails, but that's what's supposed to be there.
Kyle, most of the states are off the rails because they're using a system that's intertwined and it's used.
I don't disagree with you. Like I said, like the whole thing is screwed for 115 years. So it's not like we're going to like go and go, oh, well, this is obviously the solution. But we can look and say that if you read the document as it was written, the functional unit of the United States is the state. That's what's meant to be. What we've done is we've like ceded all this authority to the federal government. It's not up for debate. It's like, look at the name of this country. What is it? United
States.
Right. Which is to say that's what the functional unit is. But it's not anymore. We've gone to a centralized thing, and the problem is we're dealing with an opponent, if you will, and I don't even think that's fair, but like the other side, from whatever my position is, and probably yours mostly, is that they've said, when the federal government is the right tool, we'll use that tool, and when the state government is the right tool, we'll use that tool. But one way or another, we're going to outlaw assault weapons. Okay, we're going to do a nationwide ban. Oh, we don't have the votes for that? Then we're going to do it in Colorado and California and Oregon and Washington State, and we're going to do it in Nevada, and we're going to do it in Illinois, we're going to do it in India. Like, they just go down and go, okay, fine. If we can't get all of it, we're going to get some of it. And they do. And people on the right are like, how do we do a convention of states to reform this problem? And then they just get there sitting with their thumbs up their asses, and they get power, and they do what with it? Nothing. How many government agencies have been completely disbanded since Donald Trump came into office? How much has he cut the federal budget? Not at all. How many agencies no longer exist? They all exist. Even the USAID is like just been parceled out to other pieces. It's not like they solved that problem. So we're not talking about people that are solving problems. We're talking about people that are basically sort of like, it's like, you ever see like somebody do that with dirt on the ground rather than go get the dustpan? They just move it around. So it's like small enough places that you can't notice it's still there, but they didn't fix the problem. They just scattered it around.
Well, I think that's one of the frustrations that President Trump has, is that there's not a lot of progress being made because he has a bunch of people that are supposed to be getting things across the finish line. And all we
just destroy stuff. Like, that's the other funny thing. It's like, you want to act like you're Godzilla. Go through and close out things. It's like, sorry, they don't work here anymore. We're not paying them. Sue me all you want.
They started out doing that. Doging started out doing that. It started closing things.
Right, but why did they stop? Why did they stop?
Why did they stop?
Oh, I'm sure because they came upon the thing where it was like, you can no longer do this. The people who actually run this country decided that's not an option. I think Elon Musk said as much. I think he went in there with the same intentions that anybody else would, that it was like sort of autistic-y and kind of just has like a simple-minded, like, I come from a business attitude. If this department doesn't work anymore, then it's not a department. I don't need to have it.
Well, they were able to shut down USAID. It's gone.
That's all they got, though, and they didn't solve all the problems there. And that's the whole point. It's like you got one little piece of something, and you did just enough that you touched the third rail, and the voltage kicked up, and then they said, this is it. And then you had a big fight between Trump and Elon.
No,
doing what he
think
does, solving weird
Elon
problems.
Elon just went back to doing what he was doing. He's like, I can't solve this problem.
Well, why would you? Why would you stick around and waste your time if you're worth that kind of money and if you have that kind of opportunity cost and you're like, I'm going to come in and try to fix this problem? That's the patriotic thing to do because I want this place to succeed. And they're like, hey, thanks for your help, but here's all these roadblocks we're not going to actually make at work. And you're like, oh, I've solved all these problems. And they go, no, you can't solve this problem. That's when it ended. I mean, if anybody wants to know when the MAGA ended, that's when it ended. When the Doge program no longer had the people with the buy-in from the president to go through and do it like a wrecking ball, then that was it. It's the guy who's sitting there right now and talking about things is not the guy that was signing executive orders that got, on election night, on inauguration night. He got sworn in and he went to work like all night. That was freaking amazing. I was like, this is crazy. This is going to be awesome. And then it was like blew your load too soon, or maybe you ran into the opposition, and when you found it, it was like, this is not a wall that moves. This wall does not give. So that was it. And everybody knows it if they're being honest, right? Yeah, everybody knows that.
That's the hard part about what you're saying is that.
Yeah, so wreck something or don't wreck something. But if you're either take the responsibility, here's the thing. Everybody wants to, what do they say? What did Ronnie Coleman used to say? Everybody wants to deadlift like 800 pounds, right? Right up until they have to deadlift 800 pounds or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to do gangster stuff until it's time to do gangster stuff. Everybody wants the Civil War until it's time to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody wants to deal with the actual reality of it, which is that there's loss and there's danger and it's shitty. And like you step into unknown territory and you don't know what history is going to say about you. It's way easier to do the status quo, which is why it always wins.
Do you think, let's not get to conspiracy theories too deep on this. Look, I truly agree with what you're saying, everything that you're saying. They need to go in, take Tina Peters out, basically say, look, you're going to do exactly what we say we're going to do. And they're going to say no. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, the marshals are on their way. They'll pick her up at 10 o'clock in the morning. And if the governor gets out, then, he has full authority with elections that were stolen and the information that he has for 2020, 2022, 2024. He has it.
Let them fight it in the court. Honest to God, let them fight it in the court. If that's the category of things that work, it's like, fine, then take us to court. We'll see you later. We're going to take this person with us.
There's a habeas corpus that says, oh, you can't, I don't have authority. It sounded definitely like what happened in 2020 with the Texas v. Pennsylvania when they said, oh, you don't have standing. Same thing happened in the habeas corpus for Tina Peters. Says, she's already has an appeal in the state courts. There's nothing we can do about it. When looking at the fact that the reason why she's in court or in jail is because they violated every bit of her rights under the Constitution, right? So,
I'm no expert on her case, and I don't know it. I'm just saying if people want to do stuff, and if the question is it reminds me of that scene from Pirates of the Caribbean, and Johnny Depp says it, He's like, we're out here on this ship, and the only rules are what you can do and what you can't do. Like, I physically can do this, and you can't stop me. Like, that might is right. There is a group that rules like that. I know because I don't have a job because they decided to just do it. It wasn't right. It wasn't moral. It wasn't just. It wasn't legal. I'm still fighting in courts for it. I still have to pay a lawyer that's suing this justice system for the exact same thing that they actually fired the guy who did the thing to me for. Do you realize, Joe? I've got a lawsuit alleging that I was improperly let go from my federal job. And all of that is because, and the FBI has already fired the guy who did the thing to me for the thing that I'm claiming he did to me. And they still won't settle with us because the status quo keeps on. Like the system defends itself inherently. So I don't know if you want to be a disruptor, and I think that's what we were told Donald Trump did. He's a disruptor. He's an outsider. He's not anymore. He's an insider. He understands things. Fine. Still act like a disruptive force or don't. And then own it. It's like, why did you not do this thing? I chose not to. I didn't think there was validity to the claim, and I didn't think that she needed to be let go. Or if you go, oh, Tina Peters, it's a horrible situation. Like, there's good people working on it. Fuck that. That's the answer. And it's the same for all of it. It's the same thing for my buddy Steve Friend not getting back into the bureau. It's all of our little petty projects. If the person who is sitting in the White House can't fix it by just sheer force of will, the other side would. You think the other side would let somebody go to prison that they didn't want?
They've already proven that. They've already proven it.
I know. I don't believe it either.
The Russian dossier that happened with the charges that, is in, was it 2024? 2024.
Kleinsmith lied on a federal document that resulted in like material harm, and both to the reputation of the FBI and to the president that was at the time, and he got his law license back. You think they're going to let somebody go and pay a penalty for something when they?
But John Eastman didn't. John Eastman didn't get his law license back.
Right. Exactly.
So
one side wants to play by the rules, and one side plays by winner takes all. So I don't know. Act like you know what the game is, or don't. or don't.
And I think that's where we have to get to the part where winner takes all. And by the way, you're not just facing that lawsuit. You also have another lawsuit by a honeypot, alleged honeypot.
I'm suing the federal government, and then the director, the director's
FBI.
girlfriend is suing me.
Yeah, because
And who's more capable of being a critic of that guy than me? I mean, when people come at me and they would be like online, they'd be like, "Oh, Seraphin, like you're just a complainer." I'm like, "Yeah, well, how many FBI agents have you gotten fired?" Because I'm up to like 40 right now, where the things that I'm doing directly result in termination. Now, here's the funny thing, Joe. I don't think they should be fired. I think they should have been moved into places where they couldn't cause any harm and let to resign on the way that they wanted, because I know how lawsuits work as well, and I know that there's process. So, but my actions have resulted in like concrete stupidity on behalf of the people that I'm out there saying shouldn't be doing this stuff, but at least they don't work in the FBI anymore. I guess there's that. It's just dumb. It's such a hollow victory.
But they all
this,
sued too.
Yeah, they all sued. They're all going to win. Yeah. That's the funny thing. They're all going to win.
That's why
they're all going to win.
That's why they did it the way they did it, though, Kyle. You think
Maybe
that
so,
the machine was actually designed to do, put them in positions where they basically can, resign in dishonor. Well, that's not the whole goal. The goal is, hey, we're going to fire you. We're going to let this happen. You're going to sue us. You're going to get
I actually think that they did. I think that they, the people who fired them, actually do not know how to play chess at all. I think they blew it. But again, they were fired in such ways that I am confident they'll all get their job back or they'll get paid out. So it's going to cost us all a bunch of money to take care of a bunch of people who we don't want to take care of because they didn't do it the right way, which was move them to freaking Guam and make them the boss of all federal investigations at their house from here on out. That's what I would have done. It's like, what does it cost? What is it going to cost us? We're going to have to pay them the same amount anyway. We're going to end up paying them the same amount anyway. Why don't we just send them to Guam to go sit and do nothing? That would have been the better answer, just for everyone's awareness. That's what I advised Patel in January and in February.
Yeah, but he couldn't even admit the fact that he knew Stu Peters. He sat there and lied about that.
Yeah,
There's so many things that he lied about that's just, we're dealing with, you have...
Not honest
slippery
people.
No, not at all. And they're all self-serving. You talk about self-serving. This is... The one thing that I've learned and I know about DC is that it is a endless appetite for power, money, position, prestige. Just there's this thing that happens.
The crazy thing is, if you take any of those people out into like the actual world, where they go out and you're like, who are you? Like I remember meeting like Muckety Mucks in the bureau, and I didn't care, which I think I shared this story on my podcast. They'd be like, the guy's a DAD, he's a deputy assistant director, but they didn't say deputy assistant director, they said DAD. And I was like, yeah, so am I. I've got 2 little girls and a boy. We'll probably get along. Like, I'm a fucking DAD too, bro. Like, I don't care. What do you bench? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, what is your real skill set? You walk outside of DC and you're like, I'm the chief of staff for a senator. And I'm like, really? How far can you shoot, man? What can you carry that's of value? Can you skin a deer? Are you going to die when everything stops moving around you? Like, are you actually a functional person? Do you have some skill? My buddy who's a Green Beret said something that I'll never forget, because I've always thought this way, and so have you, by the way. And so have a lot of men listening to this right now. Yep. He goes, Kyle, is it weird that I actually look at a man and I decide how much I'm going to respect him based on how hard I think it would be to kill him? I go, no, but that's how men think. That's how men think. And then people in politics are like slimy and like effeminate,
stab you
weak.
in the back. Yeah, stab you in the back.
Like just
and
no
then
honor
at you and say, hey, listen, who stabbed you?
Right, but at the top of it all,
prick.
they have no physicality. They have no danger that they bring. Like Jordan Peterson talks about the difference between weakness and meekness, and that weak people are really dangerous because they don't have strength. Meek people just choose not to use the strength, right? So it's a discipline issue. And he talks about these things and you go like, oh yeah, how many weak people run this nation and they have no honor and they have no ability to project physical strength, and they are somehow, this is my constant problem with Hollywood. I guess it's probably more real than I want to admit. You're like, why do the henchmen go do what the weak ass evil bad guy says? Why do more guys keep running into the special ops team that's just slaying everybody when you watch these action movies? Like, what would make you go like, well, boss said to go get killed, I'm going to go get killed. And they will do it. In real life, they actually do that. And it's weak, fat, sloppy, effeminate, beta male, like I said, less honor, no ability to project any sort of strength. At least like the Greeks and the Romans, like sort of looked at the cultures that actually believed in some sort of capabilities. We've moved to this place where it's just like the sloppiest, most pathetic people. We're ruled by the worst. I said I could start a podcast called Ruled by Retards, where we just highlight all the stupid things that go on. And we really are. We're ruled by people that just do not have any sense, except they have no scruples.
But that's
their superpower. Their superpower is that they don't actually have scruples. They don't have principle. And if you're willing to do anything, then you can get ahead in Washington, D.C. for sure. And you can definitely advance and find yourself in positions of power and snake your way around. And that's always been the case. This is the fallen world we live in. But man, it doesn't feel right. It does feel like that's what people thought January 6th was. A bunch of physically capable human beings were going to go and be like, you know what? We're done with your shit. And when people saw it, even guys like me who are in law enforcement, were like, whoa, you just pissed off you pissed off the America, the real part of America. And what did they do? It wasn't enough, and it wasn't like actually that serious. And at the end of it, they just used it as another turn to screw down, and they got a bunch of other sort of like alpha-looking guys to go out there and round them up. 20 at a time on the SWAT team, kicking down your door at 6 a.m. You're real tough until there's 20 of them, and they have guns, and you're asleep, and now you're fucked. And we did that too, and it's like, those guys said yes. That's what I like about Steve Friend, or whatever it's worth. Steve Friend said, I'm not going to go be part of it. No, I'm not going to do that. It's the same thing I told Bongino. I don't have to guess whether or not I would say yes to something like that, because I already said no. I stood up in front of a cop and I said no. And it wasn't even like, I already knew. I was like, I'm done. I'm done here. They're going to fire me for this stupid thing. And I don't want the job if that's what it involves. A lot of people said yes. And that's why this country's all jacked up at it. A lot of people just didn't draw that red line.
Well, they didn't draw the red line, and they were willing to give up. They were willing to give up honor because they never had it to begin with.
Well, if they did, they found out their honor was worth like $150,000 a year. Like, it was worth a government salary. That's what they found out. It was worth a government salary and a future pension. And I had a bunch of people tell me that, like with shame in their voice. I have alimony. I got a retirement coming up in a year or two. I'm eligible. It's like, wow. Okay, bummer, man. Enjoy your pension. That's why when Steve Friend says enjoy your blood money, it's not his blood. It's not America's blood. It's your own blood. You literally sacrificed your own blood. Like, that's what it was worth to you? It's blood money because it's your blood. You bled yourself out. You sad. And good riddance, honest to God.
You want to choose something different, but you can't choose something different when that's all you have. And people have
if you spent your whole life, you spend your whole life like, whatever it is, making certain decisions. That's why we teach our kids certain things. It's like, do the right thing, have integrity, do the right thing when no one's looking. That's practice. Because one day it's all going to count. You're just doing practice runs right up until the one moment when you get that real option. Yeah, and you don't know when that moment's coming. Nobody knows. I didn't know when it was coming. You don't know when it's coming. It pops up, and then you're going to do the thing that you default to. What have you trained your body to do? What have you trained your mind to do? What are you willing to do? I'm willing to do what's right. You're going to do what's right. Even if other people disagree with your decision, it's going to be what you trained and you believe was correct. So that's what you'll do.
It's interesting you say that because I remember on November 6th, like I was going to give up. I knew that, like, you knew you were going to be homeless.
Yeah, right?
I did. I knew that my life would never be the same, and that I would give up all the good grace that I got from all these people, even people that were on the left that, loved me because I volunteered and did a bunch of things and could solve significant problems all the time. Mm-hmm. I knew I was going to give that up, and I remember when Gordon gave me a way out. Like, Gordon's he's like my best friend. He's 88 years old. He's an awesome guy. Like, to say that he's amazing would be, I named one of our conference rooms after him, right? He's an amazing guy. He's been like my mentor for a long time. And he said, Joe, just stay out of it. And I was now not angry or not trying to figure out this way. Now I was more angry that he was having me betray myself. I had to make a decision. Do you come forward or do you not come forward? Do you talk about what you know, or do you just sweep it under the rug or hand it off to somebody else and be pathetic? And the only time that I've ever said the words F you to him, like F off, was that night. Like, I said to him, he kept saying, Joe, just listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. I was like, man, I'm done listening to you. You want me to sell my soul. You want me to give up the thing that is most important to me, which is my honor, which is a thing that you think about in your brain. Like, your brain literally you rehearse it like when it matters. Like the practice you have is not just in your everyday living. It's in making a decision that, hey, when it comes up, somebody walks up and wants to kill someone, I've already made the decision that I'm willing to die to protect someone I don't even know. Like I've already decided these things. So when I decided this thing that night, it was, the conflict is that I got somebody that I respect that was giving me a way out. He was saying, just walk away.
You know, you don't know what that was, because all it did was harden your heart to do what you needed to do. And that's the other wild thing. And my dad always says, look, you got to say thank you for the things that you don't realize are blessings. It's like, if it had been someone that was, what if it came from someone different that wouldn't have actually had you react that way?
Yeah.
And so anyway, I don't know. I don't know how things work. I look in the rear view and I go, here I am. I can see why I'm here. I can see how I'm here.
And I'm okay being here.
But I don't understand like what made all those things connect. And I don't necessarily need to. And that's actually kind of a peaceful position to be in, where you're like, look, one way or another, I'm here. So I'm not negotiating. I can't negotiate that I'm not here. And so I just keep going forward. It's like, can you sit and worry about how it could have been? You know, do you sit there and say, well, I never once have war gamed. Like, what if I had just done this? I never do that. It occupies 0% of my time, because it's like, well, it wasn't really an option. So why would I care about like a thing that was never going to happen? But if you walked away from that cop, it was never an option. I was never going to walk away from the cop and say, oh, okay, yeah, I'll just do what you say. If I had done that, I wouldn't be Kyle Seraphin. And I am. And I'm kind of a jerk sometimes about things that I feel really passionate about. And I'm not going to give up on somebody else's Second Amendment or my own rights. So it's like, no, sorry, dude. All my free passes where I just rolled over for something, they got ate up a decade ago. It's not happening. So now we're going to find out what the consequences are. Now I live in a world of consequences. Things happen. I react in an honest way, however much people dislike it, irrelevant. That's what's going to happen. And then it's like, okay, well, I live in a world of the consequences of the actions. I already know what the actions are going to be. You can throw every scenario, just like I can run at you and say, Joe, here we go. Pop quiz. Remember like the movie from Speed? He's like, pop quiz, hot shot, whatever, right? I can pop quiz you and we know what you're going to do. And you know what you're going to do and I know what I'm going to do. It's not a question. But there's a decade and a half, 2 decades, whatever it is, 3 decades worth of history to be able to base it on. You already know what you're going to do. You get tested for something, you know what you're going to do. What's sad is everybody kind of made this expectation that all the wrongs that really needed to be righted, that required some kind of fuck you attitude, they're not happening. And this was the statement. I think I had this once with Alex Jones when we were talking about Bongino. Because Bongino has fuck you money at this point. Would that be fair?
Right.
$200 million. Yeah, that's fuck you money. Right?
I mean, he uses it to censor people on Rumble and pick up the phone and calls Chris Pavlovsky and says, hey, listen, I want to make sure that we make these guys' life miserable. And then he gets on the phone with me, Chris, over at Rumble, and he says, like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not the tech guy. And I'm thinking to myself, fuck off. Because you know they're lying, right?
But here's the thing.
Go ahead.
What's the point of fuck you money if you don't know when to say fuck you?
He doesn't.
That's it. Listen, you have opportunities in your life where you've been given, like, here's what's funny. I don't have that much, but my kids are never going to go hungry. I got fuck you money too. It's not fuck you money like that. It's just money that I will say fuck you because I'm not going to do it. It's real simple. And anybody who's honest knows it's like, look, I don't need that much. What does it cost me to stay alive and keep my family safe and nothing bad's going to happen? It's not that much. Okay, fine. Then that's your number. And it's not, if I had $5 million, I could tell people I'm not going to do this thing. You could do it right now. It's just going to cost you something. So figure out what the cost is and then eat it. You know, I don't know. That's just my take on things. It's how I'm living right now, however right or wrong it is. And this is the war every day. It's exhausting. But it's also kind of fun. It's fun to have a friend in it. And I also get to walk away from it and go work from my house and go see my little kiddos who are downstairs. And my commute is now, you know, about 13 to 15 seconds, depending on my energetic step.
I've said
so
this,
that doesn't suck.
I've said this to you, and I think I've said it to. We've had this conversation many times that if you call me at 2:00 in the afternoon, it takes 3 hours to get there. I'll be there by 4. Right? And I guess that's the one thing I got out of this last 5 years is I got relationships like that I know that I could drop what I'm doing You could say, bring a shovel, don't bring. You don't even have to say anything. You're like just like 4 o'clock, right? And we've built those relationships, not just between you and I, but other people that we see that have gone through the same types of suffering, or at least are ideologically aligned, that are willing to say, look, I'm going to stand up. Because what else is there? Like, what else? At the end of the day, what else is there?
I had a buddy in the bureau who hasn't had any of this sort of negativity that I have. Promoted, stayed in, still there. And we reached out and we're like, look, dude, this needs to be exposed. This needs to go somewhere. And he was like, Roger that. And he did. Here's the other thing. I took some of the slings and arrows. I got a platform now. I got congressmen that I can reach out and actually get their name and get people's information directly into their hands. Not like some aide who's going to filter it and some other nonsense, like the actual congressman. And that person still has a job because we can go out there and do what needs to be done. And that happens on occasion now. So it's not all losses, even though it's really frustrating.
No, it's not.
There are gains. The gains are just probably not enough to ward off what's coming off if it doesn't have some bigger players get into it. And they're still sitting on the sidelines deciding whether or not they actually have a big enough stack to bet. And the answer is like, obviously you do. And what's the worst thing that happens? I mean, if Trump screws up the next couple of months, he'll lose the midterms and he probably dies in prison. I would be shocked actually to find out that the left doesn't have the instinct to do that, even though he's out forever, because they're vindictive on this guy and what he represented. And they've made him the poster child of everything that's wrong. And they've taken what they did with George W. Bush and some of this sort of demonization of people on the political right. And they've taken it to a whole new level where they really they can't walk away from it anymore. They cannot walk away. Like they've committed that Donald Trump basically he has to be hounded to death. And so why are you not playing like your life's on the line? You got into the fight for the death and you're not acting like you die if you don't win. That's what bothers me. It really does. I don't understand it, but I don't know the guy. I just watch from the outside, and all of that just makes me go like, hey man, do you not realize the stakes? This is table stakes here. This is everything's on the line. It's so scary.
I'm gonna say something that I know motivates me. It motivates you. Mm-hmm. I don't think Trump cares about himself. I really don't. I actually think that he's already that book's already been written. And I say that because I know that the heaviness by which he operates, you're now seeing it come out in hot mic moments, which I haven't played yet. If you guys want to go out there and look at hot mics for President Trump, he talks about it quite clearly. I want to know why he's not fighting for his granddaughter.
That's
I
right.
want to know.
His kids are on the line too. His grandkids are on the line for sure.
But bypass his kids. His kids are grown. Eric, Tiffany.
Yeah, but they'll bankrupt those people. They will hound them to death. They will do everything they can on the same level.
They're already doing it. They're shorting every one of the stocks that Don Jr. is actually a part of.
That's what I'm saying.
They're shorting it to a place right now where even as they do really well, the stock is literally being tanked into the corner, right? Mm-hmm. They're doing what they said that they were going to do, and we've allowed it to happen. And because we don't have any mechanisms, look, we have a Fed meeting tomorrow, announcement that's happening tomorrow at 12:30 our time, right? 2:30 on the East Coast, mm-hmm. And there's this heaviness as to what's going to happen because you can't get rid of the Fed chair, and you can't, every time he turns around, he can't get rid of the bureaucracy that's basically ruining our country. It's basically holding it down like a paperweight, right? But if I were President Trump, the reason why I would make some harsher decisions over what's happening right now is because of his granddaughter. Because Kai's she's a beautiful girl, she's a great golfer, very close to her grandfather. And frankly, that would be the only thing that I thought about every time I went to make a decision. The same way the only thing I think about is my kids, your kids, the fact that I want them to have a better life. I don't give a shit about myself, right? I'm at the point where I've already written myself off, frankly. I've already said, look, I'm 51 years old. I've already lived a great life. I've had an amazing life. Now, he's 78 years old, right? It's now time for him to set aside any ideas of his legacy, and he's got to get to doing the hard things, or he won't have a legacy. Because they're going to do exactly what you said. They're going to make him die in prison. Yeah. And he's okay with that, right? He's okay with whatever the consequences are, except for he doesn't want those consequences to be carried down generationally. And
how about Barron? Barron's not grown. I mean,
Barron's going to be a specimen. I'm going to tell you right now.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, like that's his, forget grandchildren. How about your actual son? You got to look at that and go, what is the world going to look like? And what does it look like if you grow up, your dad has to either live in exile or die in prison. And that's literally what's on I'm not catastrophizing. That's not how I operate. I don't say stuff like that. That seems really obvious to me. Every conversation I have with people who understand what's going on, every discussion that we have on people who understand what actual real power looks like, which is people who are willing to actually use it. It's not like a guess. They already showed you what they would do.
They did it.
And that was with and they did it. They didn't go like, well, we kind of have to pull back from the cliff. Nobody pulled back from the cliff. They hit the freaking gas pedal. They Thelma Louise over the edge. And they're doubling down now, and we're going to see it again. And so again, I know that your function is whether or not we have safe elections or whether we have accurate elections. I think that's really critical. It's not where my brain is because it's not my expertise. It's not a thing I invested time in. But I can look at our federal justice system and say that's what's going to physically kill us if we don't do it too. So we're talking about existential life and death, things that need to be solved. They're non-negotiable. Great. We got the tourniquet on the border. I think that was huge. That was a big deal. But 1 out of 3 ain't good enough, it turns out. It's not.
And you got to look at the symptoms versus problems, right? Hold-ons within hold-ons, systems within systems. They call it the XBML, business model language. And I think President Trump understands business very well. And he's got to look at what the symptoms will be for this country if he doesn't actually get it under control. And it may be a small thing to take Tina Peters out of jail, but it may be a big thing as well. And he's also being held and restrained to his pardons. Like he did not pardon Joe Biggs. He did not pardon
that's
Stuart Rhodes.
Such nonsense. Like, what are we doing? What would that cost you? Nothing.
It would cost him nothing. But he pardoned a drug trafficker, right? Which I don't dislike the fact that he have a guy that changed his life or the dynamic of his life. But if you start picking and choosing winners and losers, you've already lost. You've lost the war. You've lost the idea that this game theory, and that's what I believe that the left is doing right now. This game theory is actually taking over every part of our society. And rather than it being game theory, and I played this clip yesterday, I put it on my page yesterday because I'm fascinated by the mathematics behind how the left calculates and how we use feelings, right? We use, I wonder what they're going to think of us and fear of loss and all these things. We don't get to the calculated, cold decision that if I do these 3 things, I get to kill off all of this evil, right? And that's what you have to do. You have to be able to strangle out the cancers in our society. And frankly, I don't think people have the stomach for it, and they're certainly not looking at the right focus. If he focuses on Barron and he focuses on Kai, if he does that, he wins. If he doesn't focus on them, he's going to make decisions based upon win, lose, good, bad. Do I look good? Do I look good? Do I avoid looking bad?
What's the press say? What do my polling numbers say? Like it's like, who cares, man?
I mean, but he's got so many bad people that are in his ears. I mean, let's talk about it, Kyle. He's got too many people that are bad in his ears. And you got some really good people. Ed Martin's probably one of the best people ever. He's the pardon czar. So why the fuck is Joe Biggs not pardoned? The guy that served his country for 20 years, that now has no access to VA. It would have taken nothing to give him a pardon. But because of the fact under game theory, it would have allowed for that to swelter up and say, okay, now the militias are okay. It's okay to have Proud Boys. It's okay to have the Oath Keepers. So they kept those guys behind it, and none of them were even involved in J6, and they got charged with sedition. So there's so many things that I see that are just fundamentally wrong. They're wrong. And it takes literally ripping off the Band-Aid, doing the right thing, and doing what you said.
We're so back, baby, though. What about Benny Johnson? He said, we're so back, baby. He said, we're winning.
Benny's a little fag. Come on, he's not even a real person. He's an influencer that has never accomplished anything in his life. Nothing. He's never accomplished anything. And that's my problem with these people. I'm sorry, Kyle, you've done some amazing things. You literally went to work for a sales deal organization after you read a bunch of books and went like, all right, I'm going to go do this interview. You did the interview, didn't know jack shit about what you were doing, still got hired. And then you mastered it, right? I built a company on a cocktail napkin. It's been around 14 years. Like I'm an award-winning CEO. I'm a system architect. Like I see dead people. Right? I've accomplished lots of great shit in my life, and nobody ever gave me anything. I had to go do it. And he's got a bunch of people around him that, frankly, have never done it. Benny Johnson's never done a fucking thing in his life. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me what he's done.
can't say that. I don't know.
I'm frustrated. I'm
I
frustrated.
know you are. Let's do dinner.
Yeah.
Let's catch up in person. I smell something cooking
too.
downstairs, which is good. So that's positive.
And go
There's good things in
drink
the world.
some what do they call it? Mushroom.
I don't do that. I don't do that.
You do drink mushroom coffee.
No.
I had it at your house, bro.
No. I don't think so.
I did.
You're talking about Dandy Brew. You're talking about dandelion.
Yeah, that's right. Dandelion. Sorry, dandelions.
Not a mushroom, bro. That's a flower.
Whatever. I just remember that I tasted it. It was pretty good. I was like, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to go buy it. Huh?
It doesn't suck. You can have it when you come to my house.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks for spending time with me. And I know that we're closely aligned. And
You're going to be in Texas soon?
I am next week.
Okay. Let's do it.
Well,
My truck goes in all directions. Diesel's semi-affordable.
I agree with it. Thanks, brother. It was good to see you.
Yeah, bud.
All right. Everybody knows how to find Kyle. If you want to
Yeah, they
follow
do.
him, just go to X and just look up the most controversial man in America, and he is there holding a beer mug.
That's right. Just talking shit. Slinging it.
All right, I'll see you, brother.
All right, bud.
Man, I just went off on a rant. And Kyle does that to me, by the way. I watch his podcast. So the only other podcast that I listen to on a regular basis is Kyle's podcast. I wake up in the morning, I grab my coffee, I sit down, I put my earbuds on, and I listen to Kyle Seraphin. Why? Well, a couple reasons. I'm going to he may not have fuck you money, but here's the one thing that Kyle does. He will say F you. And he will stand up for what's right, regardless of whatever the consequences are. So, yeah, he is definitely my, how would you call it? My brother from another mother. Okay, let's close it out. We had a long day today. We went almost 3 hours. So, I'm going to pray us out. Ready? All right, Father God, thank you for the time to be here today. Thank you for Kyle. Thank you for the time that he's given us. And thank you for his spirit. Thank you for the ability to stand up for what's right and protect people that he doesn't even know. He doesn't know Brian Cole. And reaching out and having a conversation with his family, it was all about just doing the right thing. And frankly, that's, I think, what we're missing. We're missing the ability to set aside any political left or right or any of that. And just step into a place where we're willing to do what is right by our brothers and sisters, our neighbors. And unfortunately, we have a government that thinks that we're a inconvenience to them. And it's sad. It's sad to see that we can't actually pursue honor, we can't pursue truth. And so, Father, we just ask you to give us the tools that we can just pull back the veil and see all of the rot and have a plan to replace it, that we can work together and kind of, I do pray that President Trump has the ability to kind of rip the Band-Aid off and do what's right by the American people, regardless of the consequences. And Father, we just want Tina Peters out of jail. More importantly, we want to restore order and give back the American people the ability to have a voice in their own nation and not feel like they've been captured or enslaved or treated as if they're lesser than those people that are not even from this country. And I'm not even saying that we can't have immigration into the country. I'm just saying that we should support those people in our own country and not step over them in search of supporting someone that was never here to begin with. And I know the biblical implications of loving your neighbor and taking care of those less fortunate. But how is it that we can take care of those that we see as less fortunate while stepping over the less fortunate? And how is it that a government that's so out of control and lacks just basic courtesy, basic goodness, can run amok of our society, our communities, our country, and that it can be supported by such nonsense? And we can sit and look at it. Left, right, doesn't matter. We can see it. We can't do anything about it. So Father, I ask that you give us the ability, the tools to do something about it. And that our leaders, President Trump and people around him, can have the courage to do the right thing.
And sometimes you just have to, as they say, wreck it. So if that's the goal, then if that's the thing that needs to happen, Father, I'm just asking that it happen. And that it happens without us being able to be driven towards violence. It says, blessed are the peacemakers. But we recognize that in order to get to peace, we do have a little bit of force to push evil back in the hole it came from. So Father, I just ask you if that's the right pathway for us to go, that we can just get there. I ask you to bless those people that are sick too, Father. Bless those people and bless us that we may be able to support them and take care of them. And I say these things in Jesus' name, amen. All right, I will see you guys later. Let's see, who do we got in there? You guys have a bunch of stuff in the comments. Benny Johnson is a propaganda fag. Yes, he is. Benny and Nick are gay. Who's Nick? Who? I don't know who the Nick is. All right. You guys have a good one. I got to go. I got to go to the meeting that I just now figured out that I'm a half hour. My computer didn't reset, so we'll talk to you later. Great meeting. Great conversation. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fight where the wild ones roam. Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave